College basketball is back, baby. The draft cycle is in full swing, and we are here to guide you through the opening week slate that is coming today. If you're listening this on podcast, but if you're here with us on a Sunday evening, one more sleep, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Stephen Gillaspie. That's my co-host, Jam Hines. Jam, how we feeling?
Incredibly excited for the show. As you mentioned, one sleep away from like the big day, and like we are pretty much officially here. So ready.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's rock. The No Ceilings NBA Draft Show is live here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel. We are also on your podcast player of choice. I'm Stephen Gillaspie, joined as always by my co-host, Jam Hines, Jam Boozer himself. Jam, how we feeling today, brother?
Great. Like we are here, man. So excited. Like one sleep away. It's almost like Christmas or your favorite the day before your favorite holiday. Like I don't know
Going
if
to
I'll be able
Disney in the
to.
morning.
I know. Don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight, but like I want to go to sleep so we can be here. Tomorrow can be here sooner, and we can just get everything started. But man, I'm really excited.
Me too, man. We got a fun slate. But before we do that, Jam, over at NoCeilingsNBA.com, we have a few things that dropped this week. You know, there's pieces about, Darren Peterson dropped by our guy Jacob, his debut piece for the team. I wrote about Bryson Tiller. Who else is out there, Jam? There's so many things. Plus, we got the big thing that dropped last week too.
Absolutely, the preseason draft guide, like it's a labor of love getting ready to start the season. So please check it out. It'll help you get ready for the season, guide you as you're watching throughout the season as well too. We also had Rowan do his wonderful piece on Bennett Sturts as well, Maxwell and Adrian Woolley. So did you
And
already
I got it
mention you and
wrong.
Bryson Tiller?
Yeah, and Quinn, it was Quinn, excuse me. Quinn
Yes.
wrote about dissecting Darren Peterson's jumper, and a lot of people really liked that piece too. That's something that we don't really do a lot of over at No Ceilings, but Quinn did a really great job of breaking that piece down and got a
Learned a
lot of
lot in that one.
comments. Absolutely. And Nathan, as always, is covering the NBA for us, and he wrote about Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren over on the site as well. But Jam, as people are watching this live, it's going to be in the morning, but we know that there's a fair bit of our audience that are going to be listening in the morning, the day of college basketball kicking off. To those that celebrate, it's the start of college basketball season. And dude, we have some heavy hitters. We're obviously not going to cover every single game that's going to be gracing, your whatever you're watching games on, your TVs, your tablets, your phones, whatever. But we're going to hit some of the headliners, right? And Jam, right off the rip, on Monday, Arizona at Florida at 7 p.m. Eastern on TNT and True TV. I don't know anyone that watches these games on True TV because typically you're watching it on TNT if you have both of these channels.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe there's some
tournament time at that point. True
that's
TV
tournament
time.
That's right. But it's good news. If there's too many people watching on TNT, you could be one of the ones who are, adding True TV on social medias whenever you're breaking this game down. But Jam, Arizona at Florida, there's a lot of different ways that we can take this one. And this, you could break it down by draft. We can break it down by team, construct, philosophy, coaching, things like that. Florida is coming in ranked third overall, Jam. And for those who didn't listen, this past week I did a show with Ryan Hammer of the Blue Blooded podcast, and we spoke about Florida at good length during that episode. I'm kind of concerned that they're going to look a lot different this year. Like if you look at the guards and perimeter play, it's going to be really different than what we saw from Florida last year. What are you kind of expecting from Florida to kick off the season there, Jam?
It may look a little bit different, but I'm expecting like a very similar formula. You have Condon and Thomas Houck back leading that front court, the 4 and 5. So you have the size and the defensive infrastructure that you had last year for your national championship run. That is essentially back there at the front line, and then relying on the guard play. Yes, they're going to miss Walter Clayton Jr. and the litany of guys. Why am
Elijah
I
Martin,
Elijah
yeah,
Martin and
Will
who's
Richard,
my guy at Golden State playing well? So
Will Richard, yep.
exactly. So they're gonna miss those type of guys, but they're gonna be leaning on Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan to do what they do at the guard spot, to put up threes, to play with pace, to get others involved. So I think that's really going to be what the former, like they did last year, lean on those perimeter guys, and then also have Hall and Condon pretty much do what they did last year, with the exception, I'm hoping, or at least on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, I'm hoping to see both of them take a step forward. I do believe that they will need their offense throughout this season, especially if Boogie and Xavier Lee maybe struggles to get it going a little bit. But that's really what I'm expecting, a very similar formula, and just seeing how that Lee and Boogie Flan backcourt works together, them both playing on and off the ball. Xavier Lee shot 26.1% on 46 catch and shoot threes. That's something I definitely want to see take a jump up playing next to a guard like Boogie. And then you think about him on the NBA level as well, too. You're going to have to be able to play off the ball. So it's a good time for both of them to get acquainted with that, to be able to learn how to add value that way. And Boogie Flan last year shot 46.5% on catch and shoot threes. So I think he's well in line to be able to continue that moving forward and playing alongside of Xavier Lee. Do you see them following a similar formula next year, or where do you see this Florida team heading into the year?
I'm I'm worried because it's just going to look way different. Something that I have in my notes here is that I wrote Boogie Flan and Xavier Lee aren't the same type of guard that Florida has won with.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I touched on, Walter Clayton Jr. is largely thought of as, a great shot maker, especially from deep, very, well established 3-point shooter, but he was also in the 63rd percentile at the rim. Last year, Elijah Martin, my guy, 77th percentile at the rim. But then if you look at what Boogie Flan, I know he was injured, right? I get it, but he was only in the 3rd percentile last year at the rim, Jam. And then if you look at Xavier Lee, only in the 25th percentile, and that's in not playing in the SEC. I'll put it that way, right? Like he did not play in the SEC last year and only finished in the 25th percentile. If I'm looking at this like in terms of the draft, there's still upside there, in my
Yeah.
opinion, right? But if I'm thinking about based on what I've seen on film from these guys schematically, I don't know how Coach Golden is going to be able to utilize these two in the same way that they used last year. And again, something that I talked about with Ryan last week was I kind of understand why people are excited about Thomas Houck playing the 3 more, but to me it
I'm not
felt
one of those people, honestly.
yeah, I worry that it was more of a nicety that you can play him at the
Hmm.
3 randomly throughout the year as opposed to, oh, you're gonna have to play him at the 3. And then you just kinda like weaken that depth at the big man spot, where you have Hanglaughton and Chinyulu coming in off the bench, and you kinda had this like always fresh, always ready, could always go 100 miles an hour each time. Now you only have one of those bigs coming off the bench, and there's a lot of questions to be asked as to like who are the guards coming in off the bench. I liked AJ Brown a lot at Ohio, especially a couple of years ago. But now that he's coming in, it's like, okay, like he's also not that same type of guard that they had last year. It's just going to look so much different. But I mean, Coach Golden is a system in of itself, but it's opening week against a team like Arizona. And I think that Arizona's got the stronger guards in this matchup.
Yeah, the guard matchup is really going to be a lot of fun, especially with Arizona led by Jaden Bradley, older prospects. Willie's a senior, I believe. Long arms, mature frame, arguably one of the best point guards in college basketball right now. I think he's kind of a bit underrated, and he does, have that pedigree of playing. Will start off at Alabama, but he does have that pedigree of playing at IMG, being a highly rated prospect as well too. Seems like somebody that's going to be a G League elite type of guy. I think he probably is too good for Portsmouth, but I think he'll be going that route NBA wise. But to see him going and matched up against Boogie and then also Xavier Lee, give him a little welcome to the SEC and give them a test there. So I think that'll be a very fun matchup to watch as well. And then even the bigs, I think will be a pretty good matchup as well. I'm interested to see how they try how that is Florida, how they utilize Hawk and Condon to try to utilize their size and size that Koa Pete that's going to be matched up on Thomas Howell. So I think that could be a fun matchup to really watch as well. And Koa Pete kind of really making a statement potentially against a guy, Thomas Howell, who's expected to be a top 20 potentially lottery pick. So we arguably have 2 lottery picks going in that matchup in the front court.
Yeah, and I think too, Florida is ranked third. I think that might be kind of high, but Arizona Jam is coming in ranked 13th overall. And just like I was talking about with Florida looking way different than what they looked like last year,
Yeah.
Arizona is going to look a lot different too. I mean, they're going to rely a lot more on some younger guys, is what it feels like. And even to what we've seen in some of these exhibitions, Jaden Bradley and Tobe Awaka are going to come in. They're the upperclassmen. I figured that they're going to be the leaders here. Bradley, though, last year had an assist percentage of 18.2, still percentage of 2.9. Not much in terms of shooting or really even lead playmaking, but now that he has an opportunity to essentially be like the top guard, it feels like in Arizona in terms of upperclassmen guards, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how he plays. And then Awaka, is just one of these like quintessential collegiate energy bigs, right? Where he's going to come in and be very aggressive. He put so much pressure on the rim last year, the 49.7 free throw rate. He rebounds the ball well, 27% defensive rebound percentage, 17.3 offensive rebound percentage. Great for his height, block percentage of 3.3, and just very efficient, a good rim finisher. But I'm curious to see if he's going to do more now with the way that this roster looks. But Jam, we talked about over the course of the summer, the 3 freshmen that they're bringing in: Braden Burries, Dwayne Aristode, Koa Pete. Which way do you want to kind of take that conversation in terms of the young guys that are going to come in and probably have like a real shot at playing time here?
Yeah, let's start with Pete, the leading man. We'll venture to guess the highest Arizona player ranked on most boards as well, too.
Yeah, okay. So Koa Pete, I think he's the headlining freshman, just like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he draws the Houck matchup in this game? Because if I'm putting him on somebody, I'm kind of thinking it almost has to be Houck at this point. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the matchup, and get a chance to see where he is against someone like Hawk, who continues to play with a lot of energy, projectable frame. So he's going to get a legitimate NBA matchup for him to start the season. And, I couldn't think of anything better for Koa Pete to get a welcome to the NCAA and welcome, to college and playing a guy like him, a guy like Hawk, that is. And then also, against the defending national champs as well, too. And Koa Pete, as we talked about before, is someone who scouts are a little bit divided on to start the season. Some are just come from the camp where it's like, oh, it's still too much bully ball, and others just like I'm on the camp where it's a lot of bully ball, but at the same time there is the skill to blend of some power and finesse there. I love the footwork. I love the budding touch around the rim too. The jumper, we'll see ultimately if that comes, but just the two-way upside that he brings, I really do believe that he's going to be the guy that leads Arizona, despite, we have a couple other freshmen that we're going to talk about who should play a major role, and possibly both are going to be first rounders as well, too. But I think this team will essentially go as Koa Pete goes.
I think that's a fair assessment where he can essentially be, the thermostat, right? Like he's setting the temperature for this team. You mentioned that you're more that there's a lot of skill, and yes, he can back down. I think that's going to be his go-to as he's trying to gain, more comfortability with playing with a higher level of competition, though, Jam. Like, especially it's hard. Your first matchup is Florida, so they're probably going to want to take certain things away from you. I feel like if you are so strong, there's almost like this kind of gravitational pull to the paint and you have to go in there back first. But he might be doing it against Hauk or Condon or
Yeah.
Chinyalu or Handlocken. I don't know how that's going to work for him, but I think scouts are ready for this matchup. Like week 1, they're like, yes, we're going to get some of these questions answered in the short term, because there's also the possibility and probably, the probability of, yeah, this is a great matchup for him week 1 to answer some questions, but there's still going to be a whole season out in front of him to be able to prove that he can kind of do more than what he's likely going to do in week 1. I don't know what expectations are for him coming in. I think this is going to be a great, kind of starting baseline data point to see how he looks and then how he continues to grow and adjust throughout the year. But I want to talk about Braden Burries next, because this is a guy, Jam, who I know I mentioned in one of my, like in my offseason finding piece, where I was talking about the guards are going to be the kind of tone setters for the quality of player in this class. And I even wrote, like, is Braden Burries going to be okay? I wouldn't be surprised if he was a first round pick, but would he be okay with being the 25th pick, the 28th, 30th, 35th, and so
Yeah.
on? I think that this is a great look for him because he's going up against some guards who, I'll just put it bluntly, Jam, like they're more, I guess, senior to him in terms of like experience. But I think that he could have a physicality and explosiveness advantage over anybody that Florida can put at him at the guard spot.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Burris, multi-level scorer, shot maker, good size is 6'4", good but not great size, but does a projectable frame. And as you mentioned, I do believe just with his scoring prowess and the frame that he's going to have a sizable advantage against guys like Lee and Boogie Flan. I'm not sure where else they're going to try to go if he gets going. So that's going to be very interesting to see if they can contain him and what that potentially looks like if he does get going. But yeah, I struggle to find who else they can really go to put on someone like Burry, especially, in the moments where he just has it going, which I expect to happen in this game, especially this season. So yeah, I mean, that also just kind of talks about just the lack of these be a little bit strong, but just the concerns around the defensive tools for Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan as well too, and I think that could come to the forefront.
I agree, man. And then Dwayne Aristotle, the other freshman, who,
Yeah,
a lot of us, myself included, at No Ceilings really like, but Coach Lloyd is not adverse to sitting very talented freshman players for the sake of winning basketball. And I feel like Aristotle, if there's been any indication that we've seen in the exhibitions, is that they're in no rush to give him large minutes. And to be fair, like this is going to be his first real game in over a year, right? Because, dealing with the injury, there's going to be some rust, there's going to be some speed of game adjustments that he's going to have to make kind of on the fly. Again, like Florida, that's a big opponent to be like, okay, first game in about over a year, have fun, right? And they've got
yeah,
guys like Anthony Del Orso, former Camel
yeah,
prospect, came over, floor spacer. But Aristotle brings a level of physicality that Anthony just does not. Anthony is a fine college defender, but obviously Aristotle has the versatility to be an impactful long-term 3-and-D prospect. Are you expecting to see much of him in this game?
I actually am. I do think he
Okay.
will play a major role. We'll see what happens after exhibitions and stuff, obviously, because based on exhibition games, he played 20 minutes in both games. I don't expect for him to drop from like the 20 minutes to 8, 9, 10 minutes. I think he maybe this game's gonna be 15 plus, but I do expect for him to be an important part of their bench. And as you mentioned, him already someone with a very projectable frame is 6'8", 220 pounds. Like it's just such a easy profile to project physically to the next level. I do like where the shot is heading, the 6'10" wingspan. So there are a lot of things heading that are trending upward for Dwayne Aristotle as well. And I just believe it may take him, as you mentioned, returning from injury and just getting reacquainted to be able to play at high level basketball. So we probably will see him play more of his best when we get to the middle to the end of the season as he gets ratcheted up. But I do like him a lot, that two-way upside that he does have.
I like that, man. So overall in this game, though, Jam, I mean, Krivas would be another guy who
Yeah.
a lot of people kind of like, maybe even flirt with potential draftability. They're probably going to be one of those names where it's going to be dependent upon who stays and who goes among the young guys and potential returning prospects for the following year. But Krivas got good size. I just feel like he's going to be kind of outmatched and outflanked in this game with the slew of big men that Florida can just constantly just kind of put him through a meat grinder, so to speak, with Chinyalu, Condon, Handglot, Hauk, if we want to still call him a big man, even though he's going to be playing three. What do you think about Arizona's interior against Florida's? Because I think clearly Florida's going to have the advantage here.
Yeah, I think they will have it as well too. And you already talked about Krivas, 7'2", 260 pounds. Just him being a massive presence in the paint. I expect for him to be able to take the matchups with Condon and help control the paint there. And then also Pete, maybe could we be seeing him at small ball five at sometimes, but I expect it for him to be able to play inside a little bit too. But yeah, so I think those would be kind of the main guys there looking
Owaka
to
probably too a little
Owaka,
bit
yeah,
too.
Owaka
Yeah.
obviously as well too. So
Yeah.
yeah, that matchups inside, I think is going to be pretty interesting. Anything you want to add to that matchup inside? 'Cause I do have a question about another Arizona prospects. Want to see what you feel about it.
Okay, yeah. You can let that question fly just real quick. I think it's Florida pretty handily inside, though. I think the thing that Arizona has in their favor though is perimeter play. I think Burries is going to
Yeah.
kind of be like the X factor in this game, to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah, I think as far as we talked about a little perimeter play already, but I think although defensively there could be some slip ups and some struggles there on the perimeter, they will have to rely upon that back line to help them out. But offensively, I do think that's what they're going to rely upon to try to balance all that out. But the guy I do want to ask you about, he's playing a little bit in both exhibition games. He's a freshman. We'll kind of see how it goes. But the other freshman in that class, international prospects, if I get this name right, Ivan Karchekinov. So I'm trying to
Karchekinov, yeah. I know
Karchekinov.
who you're
So
talking about. He's
yeah, so
interesting. He's interesting. I don't know how much burn he's going to get though, especially, I could see it really going either way because Coach Lloyd obviously has, comes from the Gonzaga background where steady influx of international prospects and finding a way of making them work. I just worry about the pecking order, essentially. Like, where is he going to find himself in terms of rotations? I think he could come in and make some splash plays. I'm personally not looking for him to come in and be an X factor right off of the jump, but I think he is interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. It's just not something that I'm banking on, I guess, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. I think he's just someone worth mentioning because he has played in the exhibition. He does have some tools at 6'7",
Yep.
220 pounds. He comes from the Bayern Munich's youth development system. He also was a part of that group in Germany, group with Germany with Christian Andersen and Heinz
Hans.
Steinbach, yep, as
Yeah.
well too. That played in FIBA competition as well, and played pretty well too. But I just like kind of the pass, dribble, shoot skill set that he does have. Probably more of a long term prospect, as we mentioned, but just wanted to cover him because I think he deserves some discussion, especially if he slips in there and plays like 8-10 minutes, and eventually, hopefully, I'm hoping plays more later in the season as well.
I think it's a good shout, Jim. I'm glad that you brought him up because I kind of flirted with having him in there,
Yeah,
but I wasn't 100% sure. But it's good that you mentioned him because I mean, like you said, long term, he's probably a guy. You can never rule him out though, man. Because like
yeah.
I feel like Coach Lloyd is almost unpredictable in terms of his rotations whenever you're watching him. But Jam, that's all that I had for that game. Do you want to transition to the second game of
Yeah,
Monday?
let's keep it
All
moving.
right. All right. So on your podcast feed, if you're listening tonight at 9:30 Eastern, stay on the same channel, TNT and True TV. Villanova at BYU. Now, this isn't going to be like a battle of, epic proportions like what we're expecting from Florida and Arizona, two top 15 teams. One team in this matchup is slated to have a little bit of an advantage, that being BYU. But before we get to them, Jam, the Villanova team is kind of interesting. I'm not expecting a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you. I'm not expecting like a national championship run from this team or anything like that. But there's some fun players on this squad that are worth monitoring. And I know Caden Lewis probably is going to be like the highest potential prospect on this team, and one that I know that you're probably going to want to talk about. So I'll turn Lewis over to you and introduce him to the audience here.
Yeah, I'll just do a brief overview. I'm not going to talk about too much about Caden because I'm actually writing about him on Friday. But yeah, he is the highest ranked prospect, in my opinion, on Villanova, and the second best, arguably the second best prospect in this game, behind AJ, of course. But he is going to be the guy that runs the show for Villanova. Got a chance to see this Villanova squad in person already in the exhibition game against UVA. But Caden's going to be the guy is that engine. He's going to command the highest usage. They're going to live and die with some of them his mistakes and decisions, and as he grows. So I'm looking forward to see how he leads this team as a young freshman and continues to develop as we progress throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, he was a top 40 recruit, coveted by a lot of teams, DC Gatorade Player of the Year. I like the way he moves on the floor, man. Like he's got nice pace, good change of direction. He covers a lot of ground on his dribble moves, good body shielding in the paint. Kind of does more crafty finishes than I would say like going through or over the top of somebody. I think he's a little bit contact adverse, but I mean, at his size, that's to kind of be understandable at this point. Want to see him continue to get stronger and see how he handles that more physical style of play. Solid shooter. I would like to see more of an in-between game. I can't speak to what you saw in the matchup against Virginia. I just think that the shots really only come from two places right now. And I would like to see that game mature throughout the season and do kind of more in between stuff. But I love the vision. I think he's a great organizer of the offense. And we'll kind of see on the defensive end. But I want to watch how he matches up against BYU because BYU's got some guards where Caden is really going to have the opportunity to kind of test his mettle against him. Jam, anything that I touched on there that you want to kind of like tap into a little bit more? Anything that you disagree with?
I'm just curious what guards you think on. Is it Rob Wright? That's the main one that are kind of really going to test him on defensively, or which kind of BYU guards are you expecting to defend him? Because honestly, I'm hoping and want to see AJ on a Caden. I'm hoping that is a matchup we get to see. I don't expect for him to start out on a Caden Lewis, but we've talked about and you've mentioned in previous pods of AJ being the best defender in the class.
Yeah.
And I believe the tools, I'm right there with the tools are really there. And a part of that is wanting to see him defend multiple positions. And there's a chance to see early what it looks like defending a high level point guard, one with NBA tools and the NBA trajectory as well. So I really do want to see how they deploy him in this game and throughout the season.
I think that's a fair point. The only reason I could see them being BYU, opting to not defend Lewis with AJ would be potential foul trouble, because I think that Caden is probably going to be like the pressure point of the offense. Like he's going to be the guy to like really set the table. And if Devin Askew is being a solid wing option, like predominantly for Villanova, I should say Devin Askew for Villanova, 37% shooter from deep. Some fun passing stuff that should complement Caden well, but he's not much of an inside finisher, nor is he like a big rim pressure guy. I think that depending on what BYU wants to do, right? Like if they want to just have AJ kind of roam off and use some of that natural length and athleticism to potentially be a help side rim protector, I could see that being an option for BYU. But if Caden's dicing him up, I wouldn't be shocked if you see some, AJ Debance on him straight up. Even if he's not the primary defender, there might be some switch opportunities where we see those two lined up against each other.
Exactly. Just want to see the defensive versatility and deployment of AJ. And I think this would be a good start in this game against someone like a Caden. And as you mentioned, him playing off the ball as a help side rim protector and just kind of a disruptor as well, too.
Yeah, and to me, Villanova is not that deep. I touched on Devin Askew already, but Tyler Perkins, a guard who had a promising season last year, transferring in from Pennsylvania to Villanova last year, 47% from inside, positive assist to turnover ratio, some solid athleticism. I could see him kind of being the 2, with Askew being the 3, and Caden being the de facto 1.
You
And
like
Perkins,
Askew as the 3? I think he's just that. I'd be surprised if they go
sure,
that route because he's just 6'3", is more of a guard than a wing. I would just be
yeah,
very surprised if they end up going like a 3-guard set. But I definitely do think it would be Perkins and a Caden Lewis in the backcourt. I know for me, that's 2 DMV guys right there in the
that
backcourt,
would
which
be
is a lot of
fun.
fun. And Perkins, I'm hoping that he takes another step. It was him coming in first year at Villanova, getting acquainted after being at Penn, and
Big step, yeah.
yeah, big step. But I really do like Perkins's frame. Like he's going to look to post up, so I'm
Yep.
curious to see how they will defend that. I don't think it's going to be someone like Rob Wright because I really do love Rob, but I just think in that type of matchup, Perkins is just going to look to post him up all the time. It's a solid frame. He has some good footwork in the post, some touch, and he can make plays out of the post too. So Perkins is kind of a little bit of a power guard with the I think is a solid, capable shooter as well too. I think those guys like all season is going to be the ones that really lead the way for Villanova. Do you think any other guard or wing
Well,
or however the case is going to be is going to be a high usage player for them outside of those two?
so Matt Hodge has looked pretty
Yes.
decent in their exhibition so far. He's a redshirt freshman who
Yep.
could be kind of fun. In my research I did on him, I didn't know all this, but he's 6'8", 220, son of Odell Hodge, who played in the NBA for a little bit. He shows some fun floor spacing ability in that game against Virginia. He had a couple really pretty 3-point shots made, rebounded, got a block, made some effort plays on defense. I'm not expecting him to be a stopper, but I just think that based on the talent that I'm looking at, the reason that I mentioned that 3-guard lineup is I could see Matt Hodge kind of being like a swing wing where he's giving you minutes at the 3 or the 4 in
Yep.
college, giving you some of that floor spacing ability. He's a good hustle guy. He's going to grab boards. And then they brought in Duke Brennan from Grand Canyon, who I think is going to be like their starting 5,
That's what it's
typical
looking like.
bruising college big man. 65% of his shots he made, but they're all around the rim. He's going to be a screen setter, rebounder, shot blocker. I don't know how effective he's going to be his first year at Villanova, but that's kind of why I'm like I'd probably go talent wise. That would be my starting 5, just kind of what I'm seeing from Villanova. But you saw them in person. Like, what did you see? What did you see kind of being like their best look, Jam?
Yeah, it looks like their best look is going to be a Caden Lewis at the 1, Tyler Perkins at the 2. Maybe it could be Malachi Palmer, excuse me,
Okay.
6'6" wing transfer from Maryland too. That could be where they go at the 3, either him or Matt Hodges at the 3. Could be 3-4, and Tafari Gapari as well could play a role either at the 4 or 5 next to, as you mentioned, Bremen as well too. So I think that's kind of what they will look to go. And I'm so glad you brought up Matt Hodges. He's the guy that I wanted to see last year. Was actually excited to see last year, but things didn't work out for him as his initial eligibility waiver was denied.
Yeah.
So what happened with him, really, he was a partial qualifier as they deem it. So essentially, he was able to play at practice and do those type of things, but not play in the game. But at 6'8", 220 pounds, like it's broad shoulders, long arms, like he's cut. Like it is no doubt that is a NBA frame. I'm very comfortable projecting him as the NBA caliber frame, that positional size. The shot looks good. We'll see if the
Yep.
production does come behind it, but there are plenty of tools to be a 3 and D guy. Hopefully, it takes that step forward. And we talk about certain matchups. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to get a chance to defend AJ as well too.
Ooh.
So I think that could be a good welcome for him, and get a chance to potentially put his name on the radar for NBA scouts don't quite necessarily have him or want to see more from him, or open to be pleasantly surprised. And the same thing with Tafari Gapari as well too. He's a guy that I've liked for a few years now, but things haven't just really have not really clicked for him at previous stops. Like it really started at UMass where he had the most playing time and the biggest role, but then playing at Georgia Tech and then Maryland last season, didn't really find a consistent role as far as usage and minutes. At Georgia Tech 2 years ago, he played 18 minutes per game, but the role is for him to play with the ball in his hands and do stuff offensively really wasn't there. And granted, I don't expect that to be his game at all, but I did like him when he had a chance to really explore that type of stuff with UMass. But now here at Villanova, man, like we talked about the frame to potentially defend AJ and give him a little bit of trouble. He's a challenge. Tafari Gapara has that as well. At 6'9", 225 pounds, broad shoulders, long arms, athletic recovery tools. So I think either him or Hodges will get that matchup. At least that's the way I would go about it if I was Kevin Willard. So we'll see how he does go about defending AJ. But I think those two guys should be at the beginning of the line.
Well, whoever it is, they're going to have a tall task on their
Yes, they
hand,
are.
quite literally. Let's
Yeah.
transition to BYU now, Jam, who is ranked 8th in the nation. Kind of curious to see if they live up to that ranking. It feels pretty high based off of their talent. They got talent on their team. That might be high in my opinion. Jam, I don't know how you feel about the 8th ranking overall for BYU.
I'm good with it. I think a lot of it is that you are banking on a potential number one overall pick type of talent in AJ DeBanza as well. So him leading the way, Richie Saunders returning as a shooter and scorer, Rob Wright coming in as one of the highest ranked transfers, leading the show with them. So I think when you're really looking at those three guys as a three-headed monster and letting everything kind of really flow from that, I'm good with that ranking early.
Okay, that's fair. Let's start with AJ though, who I kind of made this comment during our mock draft that we did today over at No Ceilings, which will be coming out very, very soon. Hang tight for that announcement.
Yep.
I made the comments where like everyone is saying that he could be the potential number one pick, but no one's really talking about him like they believe that he could be the potential number one pick, if that makes sense, Jam. It just kind of feels like he's the third banana. But there's obviously a lot of scouts and executives that are like, no, like AJ could be like this. We at No Ceilings, we've gotten word that no one works harder than this kid. Like he wants to be the best. So it's good that you have the size and the talent, but also the desire to match, that level of a player. And AJ in his exhibitions, I mean, in Nebraska Jam, he dropped 30.7 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, 1 block, 10 of 19 from the floor, 2 of 4 from deep, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. And then against UNC, he had 18 points, 8 boards, 1 assist, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 6 of 13 from the floor, and 6 of 7 against UNC. I think he's still getting criticism, and maybe even rightly so, about the playmaking and the volume of that. But I just don't know if Villanova has a true stopper on him, because he's getting to the free throw lines at least 7 times in a game. So that's 3 fouls right off the rip that you're pretty much walking into the game handcuffed with. Um, I just, what does he have to do in this game, in your opinion, Jam, to to really be discussed like he is a potential number one pick, like to truly be discussed like he is that type of player?
For me, he's definitely that type of player, that type of sentiment as far as him not really being talked about the number one pick, but not in the way that Boozer, in a firm way that Boozer or Peterson have been. I still really do believe it's a three-headed monster. If you're an NBA executive, you get any one of those three guys, you're very excited about the potential of your franchise and what it's going to look like with them as the foundational piece to do that. These are, for me, in any draft class, you can make a case for any one of those three guys, and especially AJ as well, as being the number one pick in any draft class. So I think for him in this game, just be himself. Like
Yeah.
I continue to do what he does, be a play finisher, show that pull-up game, be able to get downhill, defensive tools, the versatility. Like just be himself. If he doesn't have a tough shooting game, like that's going to happen. Just want to see him continue to play through that, do those other things, whether it's rebounding, defending, getting teammates involved. And I think more than anything outside of just kind of the numbers production, this game and obviously all season, I want to see what leadership looks like for him on the court. And then kind of as we get more intel behind the scenes about it, because he is the leader, the de facto leader for BYU. So I want to see how that plays out.
Every time I see him speak, man, like he just seems like he has such an infectious personality. You know
Yes.
what I mean? He seems
Yes.
like he's going to be a great teammate, like he might not be the rah-rah guy of like a Cam Boozer. I'm not trying to like speak lightly to Cam. Goodness no. I mean, I just talked about why we should have taken him number one in the last mock that we did. But I love that AJ seems like he gives a lot of a crap and that he is such an
Hmm.
infectious guy. To just seems like to just have as your teammate. But Rob Wright is his teammate, Jam, and he's probably it's between him and Richie, I would say, but I
Yeah.
know a lot of people really liked Rob Wright last year, and then once BYU got him, it was like, oh no, it's a wrap that they got AJ and Rob Wright's in tow. I mean, I think so far in the exhibitions, he's done the things that we both love and the things that we are concerned about with him did rear their ugly heads, where he had 5 assists in each of the 2 exhibition games, but he went 0 of 5 in both of those games from deep. He'll have some kind of sneaky talent to deal with in this one, like we had talked about, where if he is drawing the Perkins matchup, like
Yeah.
you're probably getting posted. And then if you are defending a Caden Lewis, like you are going to be on your heels a lot on this game. So what are you expecting from Rob?
Yeah, I'm expecting him to control the show, get them organized, push the pace, be able to play in pick and roll, be a scorer and facilitator. So just really that balance between being a scorer and a facilitator, because they will need his ability to create paint touches, to hit shots, and to be able to just have that gravity as a scorer as well too outside on the perimeter. And defensively, just bring the energy. We know you're 6'1", undersized guard, so just bring that energy and compete against a guy like a Caden Lewis, whoever his matchup's going to be.
All right. So Richie Saunders would be the next guy that we have to discuss. The floor spacer on this team, supposedly, but it was it's exhibition. I get it, but 4-19 in those games. I think that Richie obviously has to cook from deep. Um, he has to cook from deep in order to be, the best version of himself and to really get a look in the NBA, because I think that's what his draft stock is predicated on. But
Absolutely.
BYU, like even when he wasn't shooting good, like BYU had some good shooting games. So like if he is also a part of that, then like good luck. Like maybe that's where the number 8 ranking comes in. If BYU can shoot good, even without Richie contributing, like good luck. But I'm curious to see what he looks like in this game too, because we mentioned that the wing depth, like maybe Perkins draws this assignment and
Yeah.
maybe Richie has to deal with like a physical guard. Like I don't know, but I'm curious. I want to see Richie look comfortable from deep again in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right there. Like that is what drives his stock. It's him being a shooter at 6'5", 6'6", projectable frame. And if he can't be the shooter that he's shown, then it's gonna not only hurt his stock, obviously, but BYU as well, who are really going to need that floor spacing and it's that shooting gravity that he provides next to AJ to help keeps things clear. But he shot 5.2 3-point attempts per game last year, and that's at a 43.2 clip. So like I do believe in the shooting and the matchup, like, yeah, that's going to be interesting because that could be however Villanova tries to go about it, but that could be a bigger guy that's on. That's Gapara at 6'9", or could be Hodges if they are, whichever one's not defending Dibansa. And then as you mentioned, Perkins as well too, who can be physical and will compete there as well. So he will have his hands full there. We'll see how he's able to produce and get himself free with it as an off-ball screen navigator and working those, or if he's going to run pick and roll, or just see what the self-creation ability looks like. So this is going to be a very important year for Richie Saunders, probably the year that he maybe comes out, I would imagine, although he does have another year. But just kind of considering what he's done the past 2 years playing next to lottery picks, Yegor Demon last year, in this case, AJ a top 3 pick, it's looked like it's going to be. So him be able to play off guys like that, I think that can be a nice feather in his cap as well.
I wholeheartedly agree. And then there's a couple of foreign imports that they brought in Boscovich
Hmm.
and Kostic, who showed some real funky things in the exhibitions. I think that
Yeah.
these are going to be the depth pieces that really speak to how well BYU is going to perform this year. And then Kennard Davis Jr., really good college scorer. I think he's probably going to be kind of like, the hot and cold guy on the team, where BYU, whenever they're humming, he's gonna give them, like anywhere from like 8 to 14 points. And then whenever he's in a drought, like maybe they struggle a little bit. But I'm curious to see what Boscovich and Kostic look like on this team. But Jam, in this game, I think BYU has the juice to really win this game
Hmm.
against Villanova, because I don't think that Villanova has the size or the depth. And we didn't even mention Kibakita, who looks phenomenal, by the way, for this team. I mean, he's just an energy big, block shots,
Yeah.
grab rebounds, runs hard. Like everything he does is at 100 miles an hour. I just think that I don't think that Villanova's got the horses in this race, brother.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough uphill battle for them, but I'm looking forward to seeing how they respond to some of the disadvantages they do have. And I just want to give a couple quick shout outs to a few guys in Villanova that are worth watching as well. Bryce Lindsey, 6'3" guard, the redshirt sophomore, transfer from James Madison, shooter, shot maker, a lot of confidence. He was in his time at James Madison, the Sun Belt Freshman of the Year and the Sixth Man of the Year as well too. So someone that can provide some floor spacing and a potent bench punch as well too if they decide to bring him off the bench. And then Chris Jeffrey, a freshman that I've seen, he's from Brooklyn, but he went to Mount Zion Prep in Maryland, so I was able to see him a good amount last year. And he's someone like, once again, we talk about projectable frames. Like this is a kid at 6'3", 200 pounds, cut up. There's mature muscle to his frame, the biceps, the broad shoulders, and like his style. I'm not I'm not gonna get too crazy,
Let's
but
go. Let's get
there
nuts.
there is, I don't think he is quite as talented as this guy, and I know it's lofty expectation, but he has some Marcus Smart in his game and this type of role. So he is a gritty defender, uses his strength, the length, quick hands, and those type of things. He can defend up and defend some type of wings as well. And he was the de facto point guard for Mount Zion Prep, but it's not like that like typical point guard you kind of really expect, where it's this guy who's dominated with pick and rolls, and like it's a complete floor game. But it's just so Marcus Smart-esque in the way that the defense is there, the size, and him not being a point guard, but he's a facilitator who can be versatile. He'll defend, he'll rebound, and do a lot of different things. This probably won't be obviously not a one and done. He may not play this much, but he's a guy I think to look for moving forward for Villanova.
Right on. All right, so we hit those first 2 games. We're gonna hit this break, and we'll be back on the other side to talk about Texas and Duke. So if you think that we've gone hard already, we this is gonna be a journey. All right, so we'll be right back after this break, and we'll hit y'all with Duke and Texas. Hang tight. All right, we are back here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show with our Week 1 preview show. And Jam, we just got done talking about Monday. We are on
Yeah.
Tuesday. Talk about Texas at Duke. It will be at 8:45 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. So that's how you know that this game is going to be a good one. Jam, let's not bury the lead though. Duke ranks 6th in the country. This is where I kind of struggle with Florida because I look at Duke and I'm like, I mean, come on. Like they got a squad on their team, a ton of depth. I'm not sure how it's going to be sorted out. I don't even know if this first game is really going to tell us like the direction of the rotation. I think this is going to be like, you might be looking at the whole non-conference schedule before Coach Shire like really feels comfortable with where he's playing who where. But we got to start with Cam Boozer. Luke's phenomenal in the early going, dude.
Yep.
Like he Cam Boozer, he carries himself like a pro already. He had a 2020 game, some motivational speeches that have circulated throughout
Yep.
the internet. Like he is making it difficult for teams like who they are going to want to take with the number 1 pick. I think that there's a great opportunity for him to test himself in a meaningful game here against Texas, who has size, but I don't think any of it's like necessarily proven talent, so to speak. This great opportunity for him to set the tone of what this college basketball season is going to look like. Jam. I mean, I kind of get goosebumps even thinking about this game right here.
Yeah, this is, number one overall pick, guys we talked about, national player of the year type of talent. But you can just, with Cam Boozer, like, it's tough not to smile because he's someone who is just incredibly productive, consistent. And then, as you mentioned, the motivational speech at the halftime against Tennessee, just in an exhibition game.
Exhibition
Like
game.
locked in, and that's the type of stuff that you absolutely want to see. The on-court production is going to speak for itself, and I think that's going to speak incredibly loudly in his winning resume. But when you see stuff like that, type of leader that he is and could potentially be and still develop into, those are the type of intangible things that we all love to see as scouts, and kind of really pushes that upside that he has in anybody in that situation even further. So I just want to see, as we mentioned with AJ, how he continues to look as a leader on and off the floor. And from behind the scenes, it's like we're going to see a lot of that, and it's going to lead to a lot of winning.
It is, dude. And I don't want to turn this into, I mean, we're a draft podcast, but we're here to preview games. So I'm going to move on now we could close the show just talking about Cam Boozer if we wanted to. Like we could close the bar just talking about him. But it looks like for Duke that Isaiah Evans has kind of emerged. If we can take anything away from the exhibitions, Isaiah Evans has emerged as the second option for Duke. And these exhibition games, Jams, he's taken almost 10 attempts from deep per game and has shot 37%. He looks more solid on defense. And he can kind of swing the ball a little bit from what we saw. Like maybe there's a little bit more kind of connectivity coming from him.
Yeah, I think there's definitely is that. I think that kind of that kind of notion about his game. I know he's a shot hunter as he should be, but I do
Yes.
think there is more connectivity to his game. And as you mentioned, the defense as well too. I like the effort that he played with last year with the tools that he does have. And then he's showing it early in the exhibition season as well too. Like I'm very excited about what Isaiah Evans can do this year. And it's funny because you talk about him emerging. Like he he was going to go for that number one, number two option. Like he was like Boozer's going to do his thing, but like Isaiah Evans was ready to do is and will be ready to do his thing all season long. And with him being a firm starter, a firm high usage, primary guy in this offense, it's going to be very exciting. I think the shooting, the shot making, the infectious confidence that he plays with,
Yes.
even when he's on the bench. So many times last year, even when he was kind of in and out of the lineup or playing spotty minutes before he kind of really found himself firmly with minutes. Like you look on the bench, like he's often the first guy that's up cheering for teammates with a huge smile on his face, giving the 3-point gestures, the two smalls. Like he just seemed like an incredible teammate from the outside and just like an infectious personality. And that's what you want in the NBA level. And then just really any level when you're building a team.
Yeah, it's rare that you have someone who is as I hate to say the phrase shot, but like he's the ultimate green light, but you rarely
Yeah.
ever see the guy who's almost like the wide receivers, like give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, also be like the best teammate too. So it's
Yep.
great that Isaiah can kind of balance those two things. And then Pat Ngongba is like the other guy who's just like
Yes.
seems like the best teammate too. I mean, he's looked well in these two exhibitions, rebounding well, protecting the rim, just running hard, playing with energy. A lot of people are just wanting to see him do that consistently and stay on the court. The injuries are kind of why people are a little bit apprehensive. It's hard with big men to have injuries, and for there not to be questions. You know what I mean? And I think Pat Ngongba has the opportunity to demonstrate that. And I mean, recent history tells us that if you're a good Duke big man, you're going to get taken around about the lottery, moving forward, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And Pat's one of my favorite bigs in the class. Be able to see him and Darren Harris up close a lot during their high school tenure at Paul VI. And Pat, like as long as he stay healthy, the NBA frame is there. And I think a couple of days ago I tweeted about this, but like he does so many of the big man things that
Yep.
you want, at 6'11", 250 pounds. And he also has that budding modern skill set. Like you see him be able to play
Good passer.
DHOs. Yeah, excellent passer for big short rolls as well too. So it's a lot of things that he can do. There's some good touch on the inside, and I don't think the form is incredibly terrible from three. Like I wouldn't draft him expecting like, oh, this guy's going to stretch the floor
I
for
agree.
me. But I would be like, all right, like if I would not be surprised for him being a capable open shooter. Like if you tell me that he shoots like mid 30s on open catch and shoot threes enough to where like teams will have to respect it when he's open. He may not be a pick and pop threat or anything like that, but stand still open, corner through something like that. I don't think that's out of the question from his trajectory, but it's going to simply go back to what he does with that blend of the modern big game and then also just doing those big man things, screen setting, extra chance points on the glass, rebounding, cleaning that up as well too. So yeah, I really do like what Pat. And then I just want to mention Darren Harris, as I mentioned a little bit as well.
Oh yeah,
But
we still got a few guys that we're going to
yeah,
talk about here for sure.
yeah,
Go ahead and wax on Darren though.
yeah, just keeping with the Paul VI theme here, and Pat's teammate from high school. I loved Darren for such a long time. Just such a beautiful
He's a no
shooting
ceilings
stroke.
like sweetheart. Like everyone here
Yes,
loves him.
positional size, 6'5", 6'6". The shot mechanics are just pristine. The foundation, the fundamentals, it's just everything. The prep no matter what, if he's coming full screen, elevator screen, or pinned down, like it all looks the same. No dip threes. Like he has a case as the best shooter in this class. He just has to be backed up by more production, but those that obviously have seen
Playing
him and know
time.
his history. Exactly. And I
Yeah.
do believe that there's going to be a Isaiah Evans type of role for him where he comes off the bench as possibly the 6th, 7th man. He's a floor spacer, going to be able to hunt some shots, but I don't want that to that is obviously what his game's going to be, but there's more to his game as well. If he's a competitive defender, I do like the feel and the floor game, this connectivity and this passing as well too. So I like Darren Harris a lot. He is a late first rounder for me coming into the season, and I'm excited to see what he can be as possibly Duke's X factor this year.
We'll see. Like I'm always optimistic for players, right? But Duke is so loaded, like because you're bringing him up, and we haven't even talked about Haminia, who I think has looked solid, like in exhibitions. And then Dame Sar has looked pretty good too, like pretty encouraging stuff from what we've seen for him.
Hmm.
And then Caden Boozer, I'm going to be writing about him like very
Yep.
soon for no ceilings. A guy who I think that Caden like legit does not get considered anywhere near as like I have him lottery. I just
You must
everything that
believe in the shooting, or you think what he does will overpower or kind of compensates for the shooting.
if he's just an adequate shooter, like I just can't. I've talked to so many people who the thing that teams bring up with players now anymore, it's not even always shooting anymore. It's like, can you handle pressure well, which Caden can, and can you pick up full court and can you apply pressure, which Caden can. I mean, if I think that he's an adequate shooter, like he wasn't a busted shooter by any means
What's
in high
like
school.
adequate for you in terms of percentage to where like, all right, like I feel comfortable with him as a lottery?
35%, 34, 35%.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look in the mid range, like I'm doing work for my article, but it was in the 89th percentile, I think, in mid range shots, right? So he's got touch, like, and he's got a great float game, very smart player. I think people are kind of hung up on the mechanics, which I get. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm not worried at all. I'm just not worried about the shot inhibiting his value to a team. And if I'm a team and I get a guard that all I have to do is teach a guy who's got like some good natural touch indicators, like how to clean up the shot, but I can get someone who's 6'4, 205 pounds and will give it to you on both ends of the floor, regardless of the shot. Like, okay, like I'll take that. Like, that's not a bad project to pick up.
Yeah, and he has obviously a chance with this group here with Caleb Foster being the primary lead guard or point guard coming to
Has
the
not looked
season.
good. Caleb has not looked good in exhibition.
I think it's also, yeah, he hasn't looked good. It's him really also figuring out balancing because I think he's a much more of a natural scorer and playmaker than he is actual facilitator. And so I think him trying to grow in that area, I think that's going to be a little bit of a battle maybe early, but I'm hopeful that's something that he can figure out because he's a good shooter. He's a good down here attacker, probably the best down here attacker from the guard spot that Duke does have. And him and Cam Boozer, Caden Boozer, they could have worked together in the backcourt. I do see that as well too. And as you mentioned with Caden, like, yeah, I think you did make a great point. Just everything that he does, even with the shooting concerns, defensively, being able to guard ones and twos at the point of attack, the length, the strength as a defender, quick
He's
hands.
so smart.
Yeah.
His anticipation, like, again, working on this piece for No Ceilings, I was just, like, blown away by, like, how well he can, like, defensively map
Yeah.
the court. Like, there's plays where he is like, actively defending his man while also understanding what's going on away from him and making a play on the ball away from him while actively defending his assignment. Like, defensively, I'm just blown away by him, and I feel like too, like, his athleticism is underrated, because he's not he's not an exceptional athlete in terms I would say of like first step or explosiveness or like vertical ability. But I think just because he's not exceptional in like all those areas, I think he's like good in all those areas and he's super strong, like
Yeah.
and he's young too, man. Like he's just as young as his twin brother, right? And everybody talks about the age of Cam, but no one really applies that same logic to Caden, again, who plays like a supporting pro already. Like, and what NBA has told us about the way that they value guards that do what he does, like, I just don't get why this guy isn't getting much shine.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely coming that he'll be able to get that, and what he can do defensively, and especially I think with this Duke team, as John Shire's been looking to build, they can be a really good defensive team when you have Caden Boozer, Dami Sarr, who when it's all said and done by the end of the season, could have a case as one of the top 2, top 3 perimeter defenders in the class as well,
Sure.
too. So I do think they do have that infrastructure there to be a really good defensive team with Pat on the back line and obviously Cam too.
Yeah, all right, so let's transition now. I kinda got into my draft soapbox, and it's really
It's hard
hard
not
for
to,
us
yeah.
it's hard for us to be a draft podcast and do, like, a college basketball preview and not touch on that, right? So,
Of
apologies for
course.
those who are like, "All right, enough. We get it. You like Caden Boozer." I'm sorry, I like Caden Boozer. Let's talk about Texas, though, because
Yeah.
they obviously have talent, but I mean, in terms of like, here we go again. Draft prospects, not anywhere near close to Duke, but one player that I'm really interested in is Dalen Swain from
Yep.
Texas. I just coming in from Xavier, 6'8", 225 pounds, big body, plays very tough. 2.3 block percentage last year with a 3.2 steals percentage. Made 57% of his twos and shot 82% from the free throw line. He only shot 28 threes last year, Jam, but only hit a quarter of them. Shot obviously needs to get better with his player type and archetype. You really got to improve that. I think last year an underrated aspect that happened in college basketball was that he grew as a playmaker. I would like to see
Mhm.
that continue to improve throughout the year. But again, very good rebounder, good frame. I think that the move from Xavier to Texas, I think he might be trying to like diversify his offensive skill set based on
Yep.
how we've seen Texas kind of perform over recent history. And I think that he's going to get the keys kind of handed to him to be like the guy, with the Longhorns. Jam, what are you thinking about Dalen?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He should have the keys and be relied upon on both ends of the court as their primary guy. And the tools are there: 6'8", 225 pounds. We see the budding, versatile skill set. Um, for me, and as you already mentioned, the shooting is what does have to take a step forward, because it's like everything else is there when you look at a NBA wing and someone who potentially play the four as well too. 2.2 stocks per game, the length, the athleticism, and he shot 25% from three, and as you mentioned, just 28 attempts all season. I'm hoping that the free throw percentage can be a good indicator of some growing steps, incremental steps to three-point shooter. He shot 81% from the free throw line last year on 3.5 attempts per game. But it's just tough, if you're a big man that can't shoot. Well, not a big man, but if you aren't
Forward.
a big
Mhm.
man, yeah, if you aren't a big man and you can't shoot, then it's going to be pretty tough. And you would hope that he has enough to compensate for. Hopefully, it's going to be the playmaking. Not to say he's going to be the point forward or anything like that, but if he can be someone that teams can rely on to be a secondary playmaker potentially, or to at least be able to attack closeouts if you can warrant those, to be honest, with the shooting. But I do believe he's going to, as you mentioned, he's going to have the keys to be able to roam and kind of do what he needs to do on both ends of the court. And I do believe the matchup here is going to be against Cam Boozer. That's what I'm excited
Oof.
to see, how he does against someone like that. And if it's like, all right, like I don't expect him to contain Cam, but if he has some really good moments of solid showing, I think that's going to go a long way to determine
He's a
his
good
overall
defender.
stock. He is.
Yeah, I think that he's not like barbecue chicken or anything like that out
Hmm.
there against Cam. It's like I said, it's a good baseline or good tone setter for Cam to be able to establish, specifically because Dalen's here. They
Yeah.
got Jordan Pope on the team, who I've liked, dating back to his Oregon State stuff. He's a
Hmm.
shooter, 36% on 11 3-point attempts per 100 possessions, but he's gonna open up kind of driving and post up lanes for his team, just like he kind of historically has done. They got Tremont Mark, former Razorback, still on the squad. Another guy who's not really a table setter, 11.7 assist percentage to 10.1 turnover percentage. Solid athlete. I think he gives good minutes on the defensive end for Texas in this game, which I don't know if he draws maybe the Isaiah Evans assignment potentially, just because, Houston, Arkansas, gritty defender, good shooter. He might be the guy that takes that assignment. Um, but then there's a lot of interesting but unproven talent on this team. Jam. I think we got to start with Declan Duru as the guy maybe with the highest upside among the names that I'm bringing to the table, including guys like Brandon Taylor, John Clark. Duru might be the high end upside guy. I can see him being like a draft Twitter darling throughout the year.
Yeah, he's been on the NBA radar for a while as an international guy playing in the Real Madrid youth development system there, and a native of Germany as well. So like he is someone that NBA scouts and evaluators have seen for multiple years, and he gets a chance to now be on a collegiate level, 6'8", 235 pounds. Has a lot of tools to be a kind of an inside outside type of four man. There's some real good touch there, and just the production that he has on the FIBA level as well too. I'm hoping and really expecting for him to play a major role, to be able to play a good amount of minutes, and someone wants to talk about how they're gonna try to defend Cam, maybe throw some different bodies on him, and I expect Daru to be a part of that equation.
Right on. All right, so Jam, before we wrap here, I think Duke's got this, but I think Texas makes it interesting for a little while. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Duke would probably going to be close to a double digit win. I do believe here, but I think it will be a good game, especially in the first half. And I just want to give a shout to Camden Heidi as well, to the transfer from
Oh,
Purdue.
good call. Yeah, from Purdue. Yep, good call.
Yeah, he's someone that I liked a lot coming into Purdue, and it was kind of like, all right, this could be the year. Maybe this could be the year. In the past, kind of 2
Maybe he needed a
years.
change of scenery, and now this year is the year.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm looking for from him. But the simple case for him is 6'7", 215 pounds. It's NBA wing size with vertical pop, some real athleticism. He will put you in a poster if you are not paying attention. And then the shooting as well. So I think kind of the vision here and the hope for is a Struce type of guy, a shooter that has athleticism and some maybe underrated defensive tools.
I think that all makes sense. All right, so Jam, we're gonna fast forward from Tuesday to Friday because, be honest, Wednesday and Thursday they have some solid matchups, but not anything that I think is like opening week
Yeah.
preview show. And we're gonna talk about a good slate of games moving forward from Friday through Saturday. We got 8 games, I think, in total that we're gonna be breaking down, Jam. But this next one, I mean, we're gonna be blessed with a strong opening week because
Oh yeah.
Kansas is gonna go on the road to North Carolina on Friday at 7 PM Eastern on ESPN. That matchup, Jim, I think is just gonna be outstanding because obviously it's a matchup of potential number 1 pick against a team that might have a top 5 pick, and then it's figuring out the depth of this team. But let's start with UNC, who they're ranked 25th in the country, Jam, but this has the potential to be the best Hubert Davis coach team that we've seen so far, do you think?
Yeah, it really could be. You do have some returners, and UNC once again returns to some size, that they really want to play with, especially at the 5 style with Henry Vasar there, Jaron Stevenson there as well, and Caleb Wilson being able to play really 3 through 5 for them as well too. So I think this team has a lot of some of the qualities that the old school, the typical UNC teams that those fans and that fan base are used to, especially inside.
Right on. So let's talk about Caleb Wilson, who's the headliner. And Jam, I'm going to be honest, like one of maybe 2 or 3 players that, again, I know it's exhibition, but you can learn from watching a player do anything
Yeah.
essentially, like even in practice, right? And that's only practice. I think that in the exhibition, though, just watching Caleb Wilson move against BYU, who we just talked about as a top 10 ranked team, just watching his movement and his power and his explosiveness and his tenacity and his relentlessness and other adjectives that I am just running out of now, Jam, to describe what I witnessed in that 22 point, 10 rebound, 3 block, 1 steal game against BYU. Even if the shot's not there with him, which I think is going to be the big question and probably
Mhm.
like the ultimate like skill that he's going to have to dive into to reach his highest end outcome, I just think that he is gonna be such a big difference maker on an NBA team, let alone a college basketball team. I just think that he is gonna impact the game in so many areas that if he shoots it, that's just a cherry on top of the sundae, dude.
Yeah, I do think he has to shoot it to an extent, like, if it's, like, even low 30s, I don't think
Yeah,
he can be like a
33%.
yeah, I don't think he
Sure,
can
take
be
it.
like a non-shooter. If he's a non-shooter, then he's definitely gonna drop for me, but Caleb Wilson, no doubt, has been a star in the exhibition season. I think that bodes very well for his personal draft stock and then also UNC's Final Four or deep run hopes. I'm not sure if they're really considered a title team, but just the history of winning there and the expectations. I do think he is someone that can help lead UNC to the second weekend in the tournament. And you start with the way he moves and just the physical frame that he has as a freshman. Already see that mature muscle, has everything tools wise, and then the mentality to match that to be just an absolutely game record of of a defender. I'm looking to see how he's utilized once again. As we talked about these guys with different defensive tools, how he's utilized defensively. If he's going to be matched up against Padunga, is he going to get some chances? Probably on some switches, obviously against Peterson. But do we get some stretches where it's like, all right, like Peterson's cooking. Let's see if we can give him a different matchup. Can Caleb Wilson see what you can do on the ball that may even bring out what does he do at the point of attack with Darren bringing the ball up the court? So it could be a good look there and see what the sample size of what Wilson looks like at the point of attack too. So I'm just very curious to see how Hubert Davis utilizes him as a defender and especially in this Kansas game.
Yeah, I think that those are all fair talking points and a great consideration too for how Coach Hubert Davis is going to use him because unlike anything that he's had so far, man. Like kind of the concern that I have, not even concern, but just like I want to see it factor with Bill Self and Darren
Yeah.
Peterson. Like you got a Ferrari in your garage now, brother. Like how are you going to drive this thing? Like I kind of feel that same way with Hubert Davis and Caleb Wilson, who I feel like we have made the mistake of calling him Caleb Williams so many times. I wouldn't put it past myself that I've kind of subconsciously said it throughout the show, but I'm just
Oh,
gonna
I
put it
know.
out for future
I know
reference. If
I've
I say
definitely
it, like I know who he is. I just
yeah,
it's a Freudian slip. Like we're doing these on Sundays. The Bears play. Like I
exactly.
we know who we're talking about. Please forgive us if we say it the
And then
wrong
for
way.
me, Caleb Williams, like in this area, like went to Gonzaga High School, so I'm just talking about
That's
him a
true.
lot here. And then Caleb Williams from Georgetown here too. So yeah, it definitely happens to me.
Yeah, so forgive us if we do that. But playing next to Caleb Wilson, I'll probably have to say it just like that to not mess it
Yeah,
up anymore. But Henry Vasar, he looked like a good upperclassman in the BYU game, dude. 14 and 8 with 3 stocks. Didn't hit a three, but he still believes in the shot. And I think that
yeah.
NBA teams are going to look at him and say, we can probably dig something up out of there. You know what I mean? He's gonna be a high energy big. I worry about the slenderness in the base a little bit still. Like, I don't think it's gonna hamper him in a lot of college matchups, but if he's going up against like talented bigs or like more talented, I worry a little bit about the high waistedness to him and like how kind of slight he is on the base. He's kind of one of these guys where I could really see the season going either way for him in terms of college production and draft stock, Jam.
Yeah, and I can definitely, see the same thing there with him. What do you kind of see his role in this game is, and kind of like,
Oof.
do you think that he's going to be featured in this game, or going forward, or kind of what do you think? Where do you think he is on the pecking order for UNC?
I haven't thought about it until you just said it. If I'm Hubert Davis, I'm using him in high pick and roll sets to try to bring guys like Flory like
Yeah,
way away from the paint. Guys like Bryson Tiller, who I'm so excited to talk with you
yeah,
about in a little bit. Um, I would I would use Vasar in very high pick and roll sets. I'm talking like maybe 2-3 feet behind the 3-point line, just
yeah.
because Vasar you can trust him to do some stuff out on the perimeter and not even necessarily just shoot, but I trust
The
him to make a
passer.
couple dribbles and make a decision, find
Hmm.
some cutters and stuff like that. So if I'm Coach Davis, like he's kind of my X factor that I'm looking to pull away Kansas's rim protectors further out and open up driving lanes for some of these other guys.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And for me, Baystar comes in with the late first round grade, which you already talked about, just the size that he has, 7 feet, just a massive guy, moves pretty well,
High
shown
energy.
high energy, play finisher, some ball skills, functional ball skills, direct line drive type of things. Not going to be doing anything where he's going to be put in the space and you ask him to go create against an opposing big man. But there are some post moves, some touch there. And then the key thing, like, it's going to be, the cherry on the sundae if he can shoot and how much he can shoot. But I do like a lot of the big man things that he does. And then going up against Badunga has a size and strength advantage. And for me, I know we're going to talk about Kansas a little bit, but I'm looking to watch that matchup only because Badunga obviously highly touted, but
Potential
he's
draft guy too. Yeah.
yeah, 'cause I like Badunga a lot, and we'll give him a little more love when we talk more about Kansas. But he is an undersized big, although he's listed at 6'10" this year at Kansas. I think 6'9" was his measurement last year. So being able to match up against a mountain of a man like Vasar and see what that looks like is something that I'm curious about.
I love it. And then some other names that I have here, Jam. Seth Trimble dropped 17
Hmm.
points in that game and is also looking more like his consistent defensive presence. A guy who, if you listen to No Ceilings podcast or read a No Ceilings article, it feels like Seth Trimble is always like a guy who we mentioned, like, is this a potential NBA guy? I just, I want to see more on ball stuff. I think every NBA team does too, because what he brings to you defensively, it has some value to it, but he has to be a consistent offensive threat. Kansas is going to be a pretty good opportunity for him to be able to show that for reasons that we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then Jam, the
Just
only
real quick
oh,
on
oh, please, please,
Trimble.
yeah,
I don't care what he does on the ball, to be quite honest. Like, I know what he does defensively as long as he's going to shoot off the ball. Like,
yeah,
that's all that I'm worried about because I don't expect for him to be a primary, secondary, tertiary, creator on the NBA level, to be
whatever the
honest.
fourth one is,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's going to be about him continues to grow as a shooter. He took the most threes he took
yeah.
in his career last year, 2.8 attempts per game. He shot 26%. So I just do want to see him take a step up there. And then the last thing on Trimble, it's funny for me because 2 years ago, I was just like, man, like, do people really break out in exhibition games? Can this be like real? Because he really started to really find his footing 2 years ago and starting the exhibition season. And like it just went right on to the season, and he's making steady progress. So shout out to him. It just has to make another jump with the shooting.
For sure. And I would even say like positive feel indicators too, like what you're
Yeah.
processing, your passing. Again, even if he's fourth in the options in playmaking, like, are you going to make smart plays with the ball whenever you do not have the shot, which teams will wise up to your game a little bit. And then
Yeah.
Jaren Stevenson, a player who I liked, once upon a time, hasn't really caught on in the way that I had hoped with Alabama. I'm hoping that UNC is the place for him, but dropped 9 points, didn't make good decisions, doesn't feel natural doing anything shooting from deep or outside of shooting from deep or trying to dunk the ball. I think that those are going to be the top names that we're going to want to monitor for UNC. Jam,
Wanna
anybody else that you want to
yeah, I
throw
wanna
in there?
throw out one, I may be a little bit of a homer, keep throwing out the DMB guys, but it's something in the water
Gotta
here.
do
This
it.
is what we do, we hoop. But, like, Derek Dixon, he played
Oh,
more
thank
than
you.
I
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, he played more than I thought he would be during the exhibition season, and I was very happy about that. I was hoping Hubert would do that. We'll see what happens when the games actually start. More of a multi-year prospect. But for Dixon, 6 foot.
Metcalf loves Derek Dixon, like
Oh
loves
yeah,
him.
and there's plenty to like about him. I've got a chance to see him quite a bit. 6'5" guard, tremendous shooter, movement shooter,
Yeah.
pull up shooter, can get to the mid range, the three, good projectable frame, already at 200 pounds. See some of the broad shoulders. So I do think if he's given the time, that he can be an impactful player for UNC, even if it's just as a floor spacer. But I think there's a lot to like about him as a scorer too.
I think that thank you. That was negligence on my part. Thank you for bringing up Derek Dixon. I
A
wholly
team effort.
it really is. We complete each other here on the show. So there we go. All right, so Jam, let's go to Kansas. I mentioned, on the show with Ryan this past week that I think that Darren Peterson's 1-year campaign is the top storyline to monitor because, I mean, we saw what Cooper Flagg was able to do in his one season
Yeah.
with Duke on a good squad. I I just think it's interesting in so many ways because he's clearly a top talent. What is the rest of the roster gonna look like, and how are they gonna perform in relation with him? And then how does coach Self sort of coach this type of a player, right? I mean, in Louisville, everybody listening has probably heard this, but against Louisville, he dropped 26, 4 boards, 2 assists, 5 steals, was 6 of 10 from deep, looked every bit of the number 1 pick.
Yep.
Um, I was really impressed. Like, what stood out to me in terms of like looking at him as a top guy wasn't even necessarily like the this box score production stuff, which I'm not trying to minimize that at all. It's all
Mhm.
fantastic. But just like his movement on the court, there was a play that I was watching him where he is running in transition, catches the ball on the right wing, shifts and completely just stops on a dime, like off of a full sprint, just stops on the catch
Hmm.
jam, and then transfers his energy to like attack the basket to the other side of the court. And I'm just like, that's NBA right there. Like, if you want to know the difference between a college athlete and an NBA athlete, energy transfer, body movement, start stop, like that's just freak
Yep.
athletic stuff that not everybody can do. And then I think against USC, he has a real chance to do some scary stuff against the guards. I think Trimble might draw the assignment just because of his defensive prowess. And if I'm Hubert Davis,
He
I'm trying to
definitely
throw my
should.
best. I'm throwing my
Yep.
best guy against him, and I think that's where it goes. What are your expectations for Peterson in this game against USC?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up that matchup there because he gets to go up against a real deal defender, one of the best defenders in college basketball in Seth Trimble. So I think that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. And, Darren, we can talk all day about him and a lot of these guys at the top of the draft, but between him and Cam Boozer, you're looking at the two top complete prospects in the class, and I'm expecting to see that from Peterson on display all in this game.
I agree, brother. And then outside of Peterson, it gets kind of murky as to who like the second banana is going to be,
Yeah.
which is why I want to mention the guy that I just most recently wrote about over at NoCeilingsNBA.com, Bryson Tiller. I think that he's going to be a name that rises throughout the course of the draft, and she's really not an out of nowhere guy. Like, if you just take a look, right? Um, he consensus roundabout top 25 guy, 2 classes ago whenever he came out, hurt his leg, and then had to redshirt at Kansas. And now he's coming back in And if you look at what he did in exhibition games, he scored in double digits in the games that he played in. Showed some strong defensive prowess. I just love the way that I'm seeing him move post injury, and I just Jam. I truly believe this, that he has a chance to be like one of these guys that's just a consistent riser throughout the course of the season. Like, this is a guy that I'm hitching my wagon to because I've seen him at Overtime Elite. Like, they called him the president there, and I saw why, because I got to interact with him. I watched him interact with other people. Very well spoken, smart guy. I've seen him play against the Overtime Elite that I saw him in was where we were watching like the Thompsons and all those guys. Like, he was felt throughout those games. You know what I'm saying? And the guy who had a lot of expectations, but it feels like that injury just kind of put him behind the curtain compared to some of these other players, Jam.
Yeah, and, Tiller, as you mentioned, great piece that you wrote about him, and
Thank you.
then, of course, and then comes from OTE, and then seeing him in that setting, really just in setting, but first seeing him in that one, just like, man, that's a dude. Like, already, it's like, how old is this kid? Like,
Yeah.
it's cut up, it's incredibly mature frame already. I think physically, you can put him out there on the NBA floor and he wouldn't look out of place. Obviously, there's things to go with skills, but just physically at 6'10", just a strong, stout frame, 7'3" wingspan, the athleticism that he has, the ability to be a play finisher. And I do, for me, that second kind of top prospect or second best player for Kansas is going to come down. For me, it could be Tiller. We'll talk about Rosario and Rosario later. And I know there's probably some Marco Jackson fans out there still too. But I think him or a Badunga, and I'm
Yeah.
very interested to see how they both play off of Darren Peterson, especially Badunga. Like, he's a guy who's going to be as best as a play finisher, and arguably and more likely Tiller will be as well too. So they both get a chance to play next to a star level creator, and I think that pretty much provides the right type of environment that you're looking for as a scout projecting forward. These are guys that ideally are going to play next to, or going to be at their best playing next to a star creator. So it's going to be about what they look like as a play finisher, and they have a chance, both of them, to be outstanding play finishers next to Peterson.
I would like to see both of them start.
Yeah,
We could talk about Cole Rosario now because he received a ton of praise coming into the year, Jam, and like still plenty of time to be proved. That praise has plenty of time to be proven correct.
yep.
I was skeptical though coming into the year, and the exhibitions like didn't really do anything to help because he is being sold to me as like this remarkable shooter. I kind of question like what else he could do based on the film that I saw. And then in the exhibition games, again, I know it's exhibition, everybody, but 1 of 8 in those 2 games, like built as a shooter. So I understand freshman coming in. He looked like a freshman though, like he looked like a freshman in those games. When he wasn't shooting, like he just kind of ghosted. Like he was not like a very assertive player. I wasn't even necessarily blown away by his defensive effort. He has got a cool mustache. We like mustaches around here on the show. But
No doubt.
yeah, I wouldn't be and he got a lot of the starting and it got a lot of the minutes. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if eventually, Coach Self isn't going to feel obligated to have to play Cole Rosario because he went to Kansas. Coach Self is wanting to win, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised if you see Tiller kind of work his way into the starting lineup and he slid Cole Rosario out.
Yeah, and Rosario transferring, reclassifying up to join this class here at
Yeah.
Kansas. So yeah, we'll see the shooter with positional size and some defensive tools. That's really what the sell is, and what he'll have to show at Kansas to be impactful as well. Up and down, as you mentioned, with the exhibition games, but it's just like, start of the season here in the college level a year early. But yeah, I like him long term. We'll see if he's actually a one and done. as you mentioned, was a lot of hype with him potentially being a one and done. I'm not ruling that out, but I do think that it's more of a multi-year type of lens with him.
I agree with you. And then Marco Jackson, you kind of,
Hmm.
we just briefly touched on him. I thought he looked good in exhibition jam. I think that he looks stronger now, like thicker, you know what I mean? And like there were concerns with him with injuries and stuff like that before he really even got going. It's funny how,
Yeah.
not funny, but it's just ironic how both he and Tiller both are kind of like prove it off of injuries type guys coming into the year. And I think those two are really going to help Kansas a lot this year just because one, they know the system, they're both comfortable here. They obviously have a role established with Coach Self, and then they have strength. I think they can both play on both sides of the floor. It's really just going to be up to the other guys. Like Trey White's an interesting fit
Yeah.
here on the
Yes.
team. I think he's going to be kind of a heat checky type wing. I don't know. He might be like the AJ Store. I loved AJ, like guy who I wrote about a lot for No Ceilings, but Trey White filling that role, like that's going to be a key aspect of their team. Like, is he going to be what everybody wanted AJ to be, or is he going to be what AJ was? You know?
Yeah, not much for me to add there, but like I said, I'm glad that you brought up White there too. Perimeter size, 6'7", shooter and shot maker with some defensive tools as well too, but more of an offensively tilted type of prospect. They could potentially take some of the offensive scoring load off of Peterson.
Okay, all right. We're gonna hit this last break, and then we will talk about Saturday. We got a few games that we're gonna talk about here. We'll hit on them as much as we need to. There's one that's gonna be kind of more prospect focused game than it is actual talent. But we'll be right back after this break. Everybody, just hang tight. We'll be right back. All right, we are back here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel and podcast feed, breaking down week 1 of the college basketball season. And it is a full, fun slate of games. We're here to tell you what you need to be looking out for, matchup-wise, prospect-wise, storyline-wise, and just have a little bit of fun along the way. Jim, we made it to Saturday, and we have at noon Eastern on FS1, Alabama at St. John's. Now, not two teams that I would say have the highest end prospects in the class on paper, but potential to have some risers within this group jam. Let's start with Alabama, who ranks 15th in the country. LeBaron Philon is the guy who stirs he's going to be the straw that stirs the drink. He might also be the drink at the same time. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody explain a player, but to me, you got to start with LeBaron. Like he's the point guard. He's going to set everybody up, but he also might be like their best player.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the case. And I'm not sure if we talked, or may have texted you this, or maybe I was saving it for the show, but I was thinking, like, I think I may have been too low on LeBaron Philon if that's the way he's going to look shooting the ball
Yeah.
in exhibition games. Not just the production, but the confidence and the versatility from pull-ups to catch and shoot stuff that he has as well, on top of just being so dynamic with the ball in his hands, the speed, the creative handle, the shiftiness as well too, and obviously the defensive menace that he is. But if that shooting, that shot making is there, like, man, look out. I think that he's an easy lottery pick, possibly really even top 10 if that's the case there. And like Philon, man, like I think this could be a huge, huge year for him, especially when you consider his two-way upside as a point guard.
I think the biggest thing you touched on the shooting for one, and that's a great start because he ended on a heater from deep. We talked about that 14 game sample size in the Returners podcast that we featured LeBaron in
Mhm.
a few weeks ago. Jam in the two exhibition games that he's played with Alabama, 4 of 7 from deep, and if he continues that excellence as a playmaker, he can do some really fun things with Alabama moving forward. The biggest thing though is like he doesn't look significantly bigger on film from what I remember seeing from last year. But if he can handle physicality, if he can be one of those guys who's going to continue to be a walking paint touch, not be contact adverse, be willing to absorb contact and get to the free throw line, I think that is going to help some maybe strength concerns that NBA teams might have. But Jam, it's weird to me that Alabama is ranked 15th overall. I think a big portion of that is because of the respect factor that you got to give Coach Oates and his
Yep.
ability just to kind of
Yep.
find talent from anywhere and put them in positions to succeed. Because outside of LeBaron, like Aiden Holloway looks like he's going to get a lot of reps on this team. Against Florida State, he dropped 20 points, but was 4 of 11 from the floor. And then against Furman, he was 6 of 14 and dropped 18 points. Jam, I'm worried about Aiden Holloway's consistency and how it could impact this team moving forward.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need another perimeter option on the outside with him. Well, with Phylon, that is. And Aiden Holloway is a guy that I had liked, but then I wouldn't say sour's too strong, but I just think ultimately at the end of the day, at 6'1", 180 pounds, from a draft perspective, even though he's an incredible shooter and shot maker, I just don't think that's going to be enough, especially if he isn't hitting shots. But from a collegiate perspective, he could be a really good backcourt partner for Phylon, continue to space the floor, just the gravity he has as a shooter and taking the ball out of Phylon's hands at sometimes to be more of a scorer. But yeah, I'm hoping that he can find that consistency because can be a really dangerous shooter that can really raise the ceiling for Alabama this year.
I wholeheartedly agree. And Norton Rad in the chat. Shout out to everybody who's
Yeah,
hanging out
yeah,
with us here
appreciate
on a
y'all.
Sunday evening on college basketball season eve. Norton Rad in the chat said, I think it's funny I have LeBaron as a first team All American over Braden Smith. Is that crazy? I don't know if it's crazy. I just probably wouldn't say it's popular. Like there are a lot of people who just in the college basketball world that are really high on Braden Smith coming into the year, and for obvious reasons.
The production speaks for itself. It's gonna be tough to beat that type of production, consistent production.
Yeah, but I don't think it's crazy. I don't think that it's probable though, if that makes sense. But I respect you for the confidence that you're putting in LeBaron. But Jam, Latrell Whitesell, another player that is going to get time on the perimeter. He looks like he's going to eat up a lot of minutes for this team, along with Houston Millette. I like Taylor Bowen as a defensive menace, but
I'm seconding that. Like I
yeah,
like him as an NBA prospect in general. And at 6'10", it's a 3-and-D prospect that can play the four,
yep.
probably some threes as well too. I don't really see him playing any of the five, maybe small ball five, but mainly 3 or 4. But I really do like him a lot at 6'10". I have him as with the second round grade going into the season.
Yeah, I think that he is going to be that Jonathan Isaac type mold where it's like whatever he gives you on offense is cool, but he just covers so much ground defensively and is such a fluid mover. I liked Millette whenever he was playing at Pepperdine. I thought that there was a shot for him to be a potential NBA guy coming over, from Pepperdine.
Yeah,
He's
the
a
stock
solid
is not
college.
where it's at, where it's not at its highest anymore, unfortunately.
No, I hope people who had that stock sold it. But between Wrightsell and Millette Jam, do any of those guys speak to you in terms of maybe college production or in terms of NBA value, anything like that?
Not specifically, probably more so of the freshman talent, which I'm sure we'll get to for Alabama.
All right, let's go ahead. Take it away. Freshman talent for Alabama.
Well, the three guys, London Jemison, Amari Allen, and Davion Hannah, they'll probably will be playing at various levels of minutes, but all three guys that I feel like everybody should be very interested in long term. Starting with London Jemison, just the prototypical size that you're really looking for in a wing at 6'8", 205 pounds. There's really a lot to like about the tools that he does have and the offensive upside. You're hoping this someone that can be a 3-and-D guy long term. And then Davion Hannah, 6'6", athletic wing, two-way guy that was making his presence felt a little bit in the exhibition game on both ends. And Amari Allen, another freshman, just a really versatile freshman, can do a little bit of everything. You're someone that can be a pass, dribble, shoot, wing long term. So I think all of them are good prospects to monitor long term. We'll see which ones kind of find themselves and carve out a consistent role and playing time for Alabama. I'm hoping and expecting them to be all three, maybe with London Jemison leading the way.
Yeah, I know that Jemison has a lot of fans here over at No Ceilings, and it's it's gonna be interesting to see how Coach Oates kind of fills in that kind of freshman crop with some of the returning guys that we know that he kind of trusts a little bit more. I'm just a little bit worried though for Jemison because if the exhibition, again, I know it's exhibition, everybody, but if the exhibitions like really are an indicator of how the season's gonna go, Jemison didn't get a significant amount of burn, which kinda worried
Mhm.
me. I don't know if it's just kinda easing him in, probably, I hope so,
Yeah, yeah.
but that I was a little concerned because I thought that Jemison was gonna get a lot more runway than what he got.
Yeah, definitely. And, he hopefully will add to the size that Alabama needs. As Norm mentions, Alabama's missing quality size. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of them trying to use forwards, as we talked about Bull Bowen and hopefully Jemison getting in there as well, too. But Aiden Sherrill is a guy that
Yeah.
still has some upside there. You look for someone that can potentially stretch the floor a little bit, but mostly is a play finisher and a shot blocker. And Noah
Noah
Williamson
Williams, yep.
coming over from Bucknell has some size, some touch inside, and can block some shots. I do worry about kind of his athleticism there and what
Yeah, the
that
conditioning
potentially,
aspect of him, yeah.
yeah, and what that looks like there on the SEC level, and then ultimately if you're looking at him on the NBA level, probably Portsmouth guy. Always want to throw in some Portsmouth stuff there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do worry about what they could potentially do and kind of his adjustment there. But they do have some options there. The quality of it that remains to be seen, but there are a couple of decent options there, especially for a team that's going to be relying more on perimeter play led by Phylon.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to bring it because they're playing St. John's, who Big Zuby, Gia4 on the team. He might be an NBA guy. It's kind of interesting because we mentioned him a little bit on
Hmm.
the mock draft that we did towards the tail end of the second. He's not the biggest guy in the world in terms of height, but he is strong.
Yeah.
Um, 24 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a block against Michigan, and that is a big team, I would say. Michigan, that is. Strong offensive rebounder last season, a free throw rate of 72.9. That is ridiculous, Jam. I put 2 exclamation points next to that in my notes. Like, my goodness, like just
Yeah.
walking rim pressure. Block percentage of 5.2, still percentage of 1.6, BPM Jam of 8.3. Just like all around production. We did a no ceilings fantasy college basketball draft, which was a lot of fun. I recently found out that that was the thing. I had this 6th pick in the first round, and I felt really good walking away with Zuby in that draft, Jam.
Yeah. I mean, he's a leader for Big East Player of the Year. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was named preseason Big East Player of the Year, but he's going to lead the way from an inside perspective, and really, probably will be the focal point to an extent of the offense for him. And I think at 6'9", 245 pounds, he just can be a real load for opposing teams. And just in this matchup here, it's just going to be interesting to see how they go about trying to match up. It's going to be Cheryl. Is it going to be Noah Williamson? So I'm just curious to see how they will choose to match up with someone. They look to double them. I don't know if you really want to do that, but yeah, he could be an opposing presence inside that Alabama will have to possibly make some adjustments for.
Yeah, and then you talk about the transfer portal, and there's been a lot said about the way that St. John's is going to be adding talent to their team. Uh, no, no questions asked that the transfer portal is going to be the heavily utilized tool to bring talent into St. John's, and that's what they did. Jam. They added Ian Jackson, who a lot of people liked whenever he first arrived at UNC. Was 1 of 8 in 22 minutes against Michigan, which for those who were optimistic, it's not what you want to see. For those who were skeptical, like myself, even I didn't expect to see that, but that didn't make me feel good coming into the year for him. And I just want to know if the guy knows that it's okay to pass the basketball, Jam. Like he has to know that it's okay to pass the rock.
Yeah, I mean, I think just with that backcourt, just in general, they're going to have to find someone that can be a quality playmaker and facilitator for them. Whether that's going to be Ian Jackson, Joseph Sanin, or it's going to be Oziah Sellers.
Or
But
Darling.
between those three guys, like I'm looking for. I'm not sure it's going to be one guy that's going to emerge. I think the hope is that it would be Ian Jackson, him coming back home, Captain Jack, get a chance to play point guard and lead the way and, grow his draft stock there. But one of those guys probably be a collective effort, but that's been the whole story, big story for St. John's of what that point guard room looks like, who's going to lead the way, who's going to be getting them organized, and that primary facilitator and playmaker.
Yeah, a lot of people like Oziah Sellers coming in from Stanford to potentially do that. Another group of people probably like Dylan Darling, pretty small guard coming in from Idaho, but
Hmm.
very fun. He put up a lot of good numbers with Idaho last year. You mentioned Jackson could be the guy. I don't think it's going to be Sanan, who put up 14 points, was 4-7, only 1 of 4 from deep in that exhibition that they had. They have Bryce Hopkins, who is still in college basketball. Jam somehow he is still playing
Yeah,
collegiate
tough,
basketball.
tough injuries, but I mean, I think he's in a good place right now. So I'm excited to see what he can potentially provide St. John's. And he was coming off the bench too. I know that was kind
Yeah,
of a way for Patino to challenge him. So we'll see if he continues to take on that challenge and what kind of happens long term with him.
yeah. Coach Pitino, as we saw last year in March Madness, like he is going to coach. He is going to coach his players. And then Dylan Mitchell, a player that can do the whole run jump
Yeah.
and defend thing, does really good. I want to see some passing and a smidge of shooting from him at all, but he had some really good plays in the exhibition that those who are still in on the Dylan Mitchell hive have reasons to still be optimistic. I have him on my preseason Ryan Kalkbrenner watch list as a player who was once heavily regarded as being draftable guy, kind of fall out of the spotlight and could potentially come back in. He's just another guy that I'm monitoring. But Jam, I talked about how I was surprised that Florida was ranked third. I'm a little surprised that St. John's is fifth coming into the year. There's a lot of questions to me with this team.
Yeah, I think once again, it's just giving coaches respect, especially a legendary one like Patino there, and then what he did last year and being able to get the most of his guys. And I think maybe that's a bet on not only Zuby Ejiofor being the best player in the Big East, but arguably, a top 10 guy in the country. Maybe that's what the feeling is behind such a high ranking there.
For sure. All right, so Jam, we got 3 more games that we're gonna hit on. This next one, Northern Kentucky at Tennessee, 3 p.m. Eastern on the SEC network on ESPN. Probably don't need to dive into terribly deep here. Northern Kentucky, I will say that there's a couple sleepers that I want to monitor. Juanman Ruiz is a player that I think could be fun. Spaniard freshman, 6'9", 200 pounds. He's been pretty efficient on a few different teams. Obviously needs polish, but he's a guy that I'm curious to see how he plays. And then Addison Archer coming in from Ranger College down in Texas. I've always been told for JUCO stuff, I say always, but over the past years since I've been getting more accustomed to the JUCO ranks, like one of the nuggets of wisdom that I've always been given, and so far it's played out really well, is pay attention from prospects that come from JUCO schools from Texas, Arizona, Florida, and Georgia.
Yep.
And Archer is
Yep.
coming in from Texas, 6'9", 195 pounds. If you turn on the JUCO film, he is just like he looks like a John Henson out there. He's kind of thin, but he does a lot of work around the rim, very springy. I might think that he is going to be the guy that gets the native minutes if the coaching staff is ready for him to come in and contribute. But it looks like Daniel Gersger. That's a very hard name to pronounce. A lot of
It
E's
is
and
a
G's
tough
in
one.
there. It's tough, but I think that he's going to be the engine for Northern Kentucky. 6'4", 185 pounds. He caught on with the team last year, putting up a few 20-plus point games after the turn of the calendar year because he came in from Michigan Tech. So even though it's quote unquote only Northern Kentucky, It's a pretty sizable jump in competition. But once he caught on at the calendar year, he looked good. I would just expect Daniel to kind of be the engine for that team. Jam, do you have any crazy Northern Kentucky thoughts that you want to fire off?
No, I mean you did a great job covering. I think that the main intriguing prospects there, and when these type of matchups going against someone like Nate Amon and Tennessee, there's a good chance for smaller level schools in this particular case, Northern Kentucky, to make a little bit of a splash. Like, hey, maybe it's someone we need to put on the G League radar or things like that. So I think I always enjoy these type of matchups, see who can pop out.
For sure, but the people who were gonna wanna pop out in this game are play for the 18th ranked, Tennessee, team here. Good mix of freshmen and portal prospects, headlined by, of course, Nate Ament, who I imagine is gonna be a fairly polarizing prospect by some, but NBA teams are really excited about him. He had 14 points in the exhibition match against Duke. Looked a little bit bigger. I've mentioned that a few times, but Nate Ament
It
looks
definitely
bigger on
does.
film this year than he did last year, which is promising. Like, that's what you wanna see. You wanna see someone come and look a little bit stronger who's built like him. He played like a prospect that's gonna have a little bit of ways to go. This should be a good confidence building game for Nate Ament, though, going up against, Northern Kentucky Jam.
Yes, should be. And another reason why I am interested in this game, obviously, well, because of Amen, is really I feel like there could potentially be a how can I put this? Maybe a growing narrative or like there could be something building, just some negativity building around him. I think,
Mm.
like, because personally, I'm a big fan. I don't feel this way. I'm gonna preface with that, but I do
Jam
believe.
hates Nate Ament. Got it.
I'm a big fan. I've seen him for several years here. I just think that because of the two matchups against Mercer and then also Northern Kentucky, that if he doesn't play well or if like there's a play where like, oh man, look at him struggle with physicality and they're playing against Northern Kentucky or Mercer. I just feel like that's going to be coming. And
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to that, but I feel like that is
Just
going to
be
be
ready
coming.
for it.
Yeah, that's just kind of that dark cloud that I do feel coming. And but I do worry about, but I feel like people shouldn't really be worried about whatever happens one way or the other. But I feel like if it is like he's only scored 14 points, I just feel like it's going to be he's being set up here if he does not have a 25 plus or this ridiculous stat line that, oh yeah, even more reason to worry about Nate Amon. He can't be the guy off the bounce from Northern Kentucky or Mercer. So I just feel like that's going to build there if he doesn't have these monster games. But I just think there's be no reason to panic or over evaluate one way or the other after this.
Yeah, Coach Barnes is another one of those coaches who I mentioned, like with Coach Self. He's not going to feel like he has to funnel everything through Nate Ament. He's going to put him in a system and he's going to give him looks to where he can look as great or look as concerning as he wants to, but he's not going to feel obligated that he has to run the offense holistically through Nate Ament. And Norton Rad in the chat mentions I have Ament in a tier of prospects in my board that's between 7 to 12, and he asks, is that too low? I think that that's fair. I Anything higher than that, I think is putting a whole lot of optimism in a player who has a lot of concerns. And I think anything lower than that, like I can still get. And to be honest, like I have him lower than 12th on my board. I just, I
I'm
think
loving
that
it
that's
because we're
fair.
totally
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
on him. So I'm looking forward to the aim discussion all year long between us and then just everyone knows ceilings in the whole community because I have him at 5. We'll see what happens, but I'm
See,
not as
yeah. Depends on who
worried
you
about
ask.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about him as other people, and I do like some of the potential outcomes, even if it's not like this top tier superstar outcome.
I think that that's totally fair. Let's talk about my cousin Jacoby Gillespie coming in from Maryland. Had a solid game against Duke, but wasn't terribly efficient. Was only 3 of 13 from deep, 5 of 21 from the floor. But he had 8 assists with only 2 turnovers. Looks like he's going to take over the role as like that Tennessee lead guard.
Yep.
I was hoping to see a little bit more efficiency, considering that Maryland is not like a small school in a small conference, but he is playing in a completely different scheme going from Maryland to Tennessee. So that's going to be interesting. Jam, any Gillespie thoughts that you want to fire off? Because I got a freshman that I am sorting to die to talk with anybody at No Ceilings about.
Yeah, just quick on very steady guard, shoot, facilitate. On the smaller side, which like 6'3", obviously want a little more size the point guard spot.
Yeah.
But if he was taller, I would be more in on him as an NBA prospect. But I do see as a G League elite camp type of guy, possibly maybe even a combine invite. But he's going to be key to getting some easier shots, organizing the offense, and he's more than capable.
I love it. All right, so Jam, Dwayne Brown the second, freshman, playing for Tennessee this year, looked really good against Duke, brother. 10.6 boards, 1 block, was 5 of 5 from the floor. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know things that I don't. I was not coming into the season ready to talk about Dwayne Brown the second, just to be completely transparent with everybody. I wasn't. But after that game, I'm like, oh my gosh, let me get acclimated to this young man's game. He was an All-American nominee, and like I don't know which players ever get omitted from being All-Americans that end up just being like, okay, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. But he was a state champion 3 times in Division 7A basketball in Alabama. He was Alabama's
Yeah.
Gatorade Player of the Year and Mr. Basketball. So like, holy smokes, how does a player as good as him kind of fall through the cracks? Like no one talks about him, but yet he steps into and we've gathered intel too that like this was a guy that we should have kind of paid attention to, that like ultimately you can only watch so many players coming into the year. And how many times have you ever told Jam like you need to watch this guy and he turns out to not really worth be watching, is there prioritizing over some other people? But dude, Dwayne Brown looks so good. He's not a 5. I think he's kind of an overqualified 4 though for some of the stuff that he does, but he's a big
Yeah.
body, moves well, very strong. I dig physicality, man. Like that's a big thing on my
Yes.
prerequisites you got to check if you're going to be a front court player. And I feel him defensively. I feel him on the boards, and he sets screens. He runs hard. I, I wanted to get him I wanted to get him on the mock draft. I couldn't. A lot of
Yeah.
people just
You
don't know
threw his
yet.
name out there a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think, Jam? Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you are. And I think, as you mentioned, like that is such the beauty of scouting, player
Yes.
evaluation, or across any sport when you have guys like this that emerge and will emerge. There's going to be names that not necessarily pop out of nowhere, but it'll be like Dwayne Brown as well. That once we get a month or two, he's like, oh, this guy's a freshman, or this. So we do have a lot of guys try to see everybody. But yeah, you talk about a guy that makes you feel his physicality is 6'8", 251 pounds, just a real presence in the paint that knows how to use his physical tools. 7'3" wingspan as well too. So I really do like a lot of the tools. We'll see how the skill set continues to come around, and if he's going to be, it's looking like it's going to be more of an undersized 5, but it's going to be very,
Which is
very
scary. That's a
interesting.
scary
Yeah,
position to play and be good at. But man, he looks so good.
he definitely does, and I think he's going to be a guy, as you've already said, to watch all season long and his growth.
Yeah, and then the only other guy I think on Tennessee that I want to necessarily touch on, Jam, is Felix Okpara. In their exhibitions, 11 points, 8 boards, 2 blocks. Last year had a block percentage of 8.3. Really good offensive rebounder, defensive rebounding kind of so. I just think that he might be a Portsmouth guy, maybe a G
Hmm.
League guy. I could see him kind of teetering in that direction. He just feels like he is going to come in and do the big man dirty work things for this team, just like he did last year.
Yeah, not much to really touch on with him. I'll just say that JP Estrella and Jalen Carey are going to be relied upon to help fill those center roles and to provide some support there as well too. And those are guys worth tracking.
All right, and then so let's move over. We got 2 more games, folks. Y'all are doing great. Just hang in there with us. All right, so San Francisco in at Memphis, 3 p.m. Eastern on Saturday on ESPN Plus. San Francisco, Jam, this is going to be the Tyrone Riley the fourth show, 6'6",
Yep.
200 pounds, figures to be the lead guy. He's going to test himself against a team who I would consider real competition, but I legit have some questions about the direction that Memphis is going. I like Tyrone Riley. Mookie Cook didn't necessarily play much at Oregon, but coming into San Francisco is kind of optimistic. He's got some fun stats. Nuito Newberry is a no-stone guy that I know Maxwell has mentioned. And I like Guillermo Diaz-Graham. Coming in from Pitt, I was really high on the Diaz-Graham twins at Pitt because they kind of fit the Chet Holmgren, Evan Mobley kind of profile on paper. Just a lot more hypothetical now than they used to be. But what are you looking forward to in this San Francisco team there, Jam?
Yeah, definitely Riley, possibly the top mid-major prospect in the country. Him leading the way, trying to get things started off on a good foot there in the second season there. I don't see too much resistance on the other end on him against him on the wing. So we'll see how aggressive he is and what the game plan is there. And then I want to just shout out Legend Smiley, 6'5" freshman.
Good one.
Not
Yep.
only just an unbelievable name. I'm incredibly jealous that it's just a phenomenal name. But just a 6'5" guard, good shooter, skilled, out of Seattle, the hotbed that is Seattle. I will definitely bet on Seattle prospects. And I think he's going to be someone that San Francisco will need as a freshman to keep the floor space and take a little bit off the load off of Tyrone Riley as well. Very well could be someone that power four teams come calling upon to transfer up. I don't want to try to take guys away from San Francisco fans. Hopefully he stays like Tyrone Riley, but I do see
There we
him
go.
getting a lot of the interest. And you talk about Mookie Cook there with his tools and the pedigree there. He's another year removed from that ankle surgery. So hopefully things can kind of really start clicking for him again there.
Former top 25 recruit, man. Like
Yep.
he was a guy that a lot of people really liked. And you might have saw me facepalm if you're watching the show here because Nornrad in the chat said, "Are you sure Tyrone Riley is not 6'7", playing off of the whole 6'7" thing that I still don't understand. Apparently the point of the 6'7" is that there's no point to it at all, which infuriates me because I'm an angry old man. All right, Jam. But on the other side, Memphis, who I will say one move that they made that I liked is that they got a Marcellus Jackson from Columbus High School. He recently
Yeah.
committed, and Cello is criminally underranked in my opinion on recruiting outlets. But as to who they have on the team now, Doug McDaniel had a rough season with K-State last year, and that was after he had a kind of solid year with Michigan. Looks like he's going to be the number one scoring option at Memphis since PJ Haggerty isn't there anymore. He's going to generate numbers, but I think he's just going to be a solid college guard at best. He had 19 points against my Hogs, 5-11 from the floor, 3 of 5 from deep, 6 of 8 from the line, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, and 3 steals. I don't necessarily feel I don't have a strong conviction about him. Then they got Aaron Bradshaw coming over, former top 10 recruit in the 2023 class, who's still looking to find his footing after playing for the blue-blooded schools like Ohio State and Kentucky. I generally worried about guys who don't make it at 2 different blue blood schools and then go to Memphis and is still trying to find a way. He only had 8 points and 5 fouls in their game against the Hogs. I don't know if he can recover any potential that he once had. And then Curtis Given the third, who decent freshman last year, but the splits were not great. It's hard whenever you're not playing a lot of time to be uber consistent all the time. He might be the third best player on this team based on what I saw in the exhibitions. And then outside of that, it gets scary fast if you're a Memphis Tigers fan, Jam.
Yeah, it does. I guess the bright side is plenty of opportunity here for everyone. Doug McDaniel is going to lead the way, a part of that Paul the Sixth lineage of, that I've spoke about with Darren Harris and Patrick Gongba as well. He leads the way, and you talk about Curtis Gibbons being the third guy. He may be the second, honestly. I think it could
Yeah,
be them leading the way. And then another guy that I just want to throw out is Zach Davis, a transfer from South Carolina, 6'7", long, athletic wing.
good
I
one. Yeah.
liked a lot of the tools throughout the years. Once again, just the jump really just hasn't really been there. I do like the tools, the long arms, the athleticism, as I mentioned, and I want to see how he functionalizes that. And because I think he is going to be the one that guards Tyrone Riley, so that'll be a good challenge for him.
Yeah, and I'll put this on the record, and I hate being a negative person, but I'm worried about the Coach Hardaway experience in Memphis. It has not lived up to what I genuinely wanted it to be yet. This is, I mean, maybe in next year's recruiting class again. I love Solo Jackson, but there's probably a lot of people who are like, okay, he wasn't a top 100 prospect, and like that's going to be the thing that you hang your hat on. Like that's still probably not what everyone was expecting with Coach Hardaway in Memphis when they signed him, Jam. But the last game that we're going to touch on, guys, is Woo Pig Suey, the Arkansas Razorbacks. We're going to be traveling up to Michigan State, 7 p.m. Eastern on Saturday on Fox. Jam, the Razorbacks. I just want to lead with one, they're the 14th team in the country. I love that. Lots of freshmen, a good blend of returners and portal prospects, too. I just want to start off with I did not have Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff super high on my board coming in because I feel like a pretty fair concerns. But dude, watching them against Memphis and Cincinnati, I am so excited to be a Razorback fan this year. Those two
Yeah.
just look like they're ready to tear it up, dude. I am pumped to watch them play.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I echo that excitement. You're probably a little more excited than me being a Razorback fan, but I do believe that Malik Thompson, Darius Acuff pairing that could be one of, if not the best freshman backcourt in the country. I expect them to play a lot together like they have been and really leading the way. DJ Wagner, I think he continues to take another step forward. But in that backcourt, I do think it's Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff who will be more of the engines there and are more of the NBA prospects. Just two dynamic guards that can create on their own, some playmaking flashes too. Acuff on his end, just physically stout
Dude,
frame. He's listed as 6'3", 190 pounds. I'm a little surprised it's only 190 pounds. I thought he would definitely be 2 bills, but
he
he
looks
is just,
comparable to Caden Boozer in his measurements, who's an
I like
inch
that.
taller and about 10 pounds heavier.
I like that a lot. And just so physical getting downhill, tricky, the shot making as well, too. Really good lob passer, which I like. We'll see what type of playmaker he can ultimately become. And the same with Malik Thomas as far as the playmaking flashes. But Malik has been so lethal off the ball, which
Oh,
is going to
dude.
go, it's going to be such a big weapon for him on the NBA level. And obviously playing with Arkansas too, but they play on and off the ball. And some of the tough shot making. I can't remember which exhibition game I watched of them, saw them both. But one is pick and roll possession, pick and roll top of the key. Then he comes, gets to the elbow, and gives a tough one leg fadeaway jumper, just so smooth, contested. Like he has that type of tough shot making ability and some defensive tools, like the length, despite being thin, he will compete, active off the ball. So I really do like what that backcourt can be.
Yeah, so little story about Malik Thomas here, and it's really more a story about Malik Monk, but I think Malik Thomas has some Malik Monk in his game, and this is kind of redemption for Razorback fans because Malik Monk was a brother to, or still is a brother to Marcus Monk, who is like a storied wide receiver guy who used to play for the Razorbacks. Back when we had, everyone knows Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis, and Matt Jones, but Marcus Monk was like the receiver on the team. So when Malik Monk was making his recruiting rounds, there was a strong possibility that he was going to go to Arkansas, but spurned Arkansas for Coach Calipari and Kentucky. Now we got Malik Thomas, who figures to be like the second coming of a college Malik Monk now, and he's playing for Coach Calipari in Arkansas. So kind of full circle moment here between those two. And I love Darius Acuff, dude. I was nervous, legit nervous for both of these guys coming in, but Acuff is such a downhill driver, rim pressure guy. If he shows any sort of semblance of shooting, like it's a wrap. Like this dude could be a top 10 prospect if all things kind of break right for him. But again, on the Hogs, dude, we got Trevon Brazile kind of looking like the vet on this team. Even though he's been injury prone, he still shows some of the defensive flashes. He's gonna shoot, and
I'm still
yeah,
in.
still you have to be into some degree. But the defensive flashes are still there. I think that he's going to shoot and help spread the floor. The health is just going to be the focal point, Jam. But Brazil, like kind of being like the sage veteran on this team, you have high hopes for him.
I do, just to continue to take another step. It doesn't have to be the lead, one of the top 3 leading scorers, but for him to continuously show that he can spread the floor consistently, be a play finish with that fantastic athleticism as he has been, and just being a defensive. I don't see him as an anchor, but being just a versatile defender that can make things switchable and make things difficult for guys, and a playmaker. Like in an exhibition game, he's blocking 3-point jumpers, from guys, like finishing
Yep.
at the rims, getting stops in space. So I still think there's a lot to like about him as a backup big, especially when you talk about that elite athleticism and the tools with the shooting.
Yeah, another one of those Ryan Kalkbrenner watch list guys for me. And then, I mean, we might have buried the lead a little bit, Jam, because Billy Cunningham might be the most, favorite Razorback player within No Ceilings.
Billy Richmond.
Billy Richmond. What I write?
Yeah,
Billy Cunningham.
Billy Cunningham.
Oh my gosh. That's how you know that it's late, folks. Billy
The
Richmond, not
Kangaroo
Billy.
Kid.
I can't. My goodness. I'm so glad I have a co-host, but Billy Richmond is just a No Ceilings favorite Razorback
Yes.
prospect, and people are probably going to be really surprised with how high this dude gets ranked on boards and in mock drafts
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I mean, he's an electric athlete, Jam, and you feel him on defense all the time.
Yes. On both ends of the court, we talk about functionalizing the athleticism, and he does that, whether he's as a play finisher, running the floor, lob threat, backdoor stuff, cutter, all that stuff, and defensively with the point of attack, off the ball, on the ball. He's just so competitive. A lot of the tools that you love from the defensive tools with the length, quick hands, the lateral quickness as well. The jumper does not look bad despite him not being a reliable shooter at all. So I think it is projectable. He made a couple threes in the exhibition stuff in his exhibition season as well. So he's shown some really good stuff. And I know that we always do it to so many different prospects, especially wing ones, athletic wing ones, but he really is a jumper away from being a
If he
lottery
could
type
only
of guy.
shoot it, Jam. If he
Yeah.
could only shoot it.
Exactly. He just makes so many winning plays on both ends of the court without being a knockdown shooter, and it's just a lot to like about him.
For sure. And then likewise with Carter Knox, who I feel like
Yep.
is a steady, consistent jumper away because he's a 3 that's not really 3 sized, so to speak. You kind of want him to be more comfortable at the 2 at his size, in my opinion. But he is a hard defender. He is a hard rebounder. He cuts, he runs. He's one of these guys who's kind of fitting into a role, and you never hear anything negative about him kind of fitting into a role. And this was a guy who I liked at Overtime Elite. I know that Corey liked him a lot too. I want to see so much more, but I wonder if he's going to be what used to be called a Kentucky bump. Now we get to call it an Arkansas bump, which is kind of cool. Maybe he kind of benefits from playing within a system that features so much talent that teams kind of understand that he is contributing in a role.
Yeah, the measures will be interesting. Like I still feel very comfortable with him being a 3. I don't necessarily think his height or skill set pigeonholes him to being a two or things like that. I would think we actually have more ball skills for me to play more of the two, but at 6'6", 220, I feel pretty comfortable with him playing the three. It looks like it'll be a plus wingspan, just a strong, stout, projectable frame, broad shoulders. I thought he's been pretty good defensively in the exhibition play on and off the ball, doing a good job playing off of both A Cuff and Wagner and Malik Thomas as well too, being a spot up shooter, a cutter, closeout attacker. So those are things I want to see him continue to do and excel at.
I love it. And then we talked about Malik Ewan earlier in the
Yeah,
offseason jam, and looks like he's going to be coming in off the bench, which I kind of get. I just want to see. I like that he comes in and gives them a little bit looks. We mentioned that he could be potentially, Arkansas could get into some 5-out stuff with him, being that guy who can come in and kind of be a not a necessarily a hub, but you feel comfortable with the offense kind of extending through him at the 5-man spot. Looks okay. We're gonna need to see more consistency coming in with him coming in off the bench.
yeah, it's just the athleticism concerns, that vertical
Yeah.
pop, and him not being a shooter. Those are the two main concerns. Otherwise, you like him at what 6'9", 6'10". The ball skills, the playmaking that he brings, that uniqueness as a big, and him coming off the bench, I think can be really good for Arkansas, as you already talked about. Now, the one thing I want to add to that is that if they're going to be looking to get guys organized, like I know they're going to probably have Wagner or how they're going to stagger minutes, but he can be someone that can help get the team organized, get them some easy looks off the bench with that second unit.
That's a very good point, Jam. So Michigan State, the team that the Razorbacks are playing, which really doesn't matter because Arkansas is the only thing that matters in this game, Jam, as everybody knows. But for real though, Michigan State, we got Paige is a Sparty supporter, so we got to be nice to Paige. They're ranked 22nd in the country. Cohen
Yeah.
Carr, I think, is the dude that is obviously known as an athlete, but he's been doing good during these exhibitions. Jam 17 points against Bowling Green, 11 against UConn, was 4-6 from the floor against UConn, and he's just a freak athlete who he's gonna make some plays on there. I just hope that he can be consistent, and I'm curious to see if he's going to be the guy that draws the Malik Thomas assignment.
Yeah, he very well could be the guy that does it. Like he's going to be relied upon to do so much for Michigan State, which is going to be interesting because I don't see necessarily his role what's projected to be as one of the primary offensive guys and the defensive stopper. I don't necessarily being the defensive stopper I see it on the NBA level as his role, but not the offensive role. But this is a good chance for him to expand his game, to make mistakes, to grow, surprise some people there. So it's going to be an important year for Mr. Carr, and I think the tools and opportunity are right there for him.
And then alongside him, you got Jeremy Fears Jr. Looks like he's going to be a solid lead guard this year, man. Against Bowling Green, he had 12
Yeah.
and 9. Against UConn, he had 14 and 6. Both of those games, he had 2 and 3 steals, so combining for 5 steals between the two. Want to see him obviously be more efficient in the paint. Like if we get into analyzing everyone like their future NBA guys, and it's just a dirty habit that we have. Like I think he's going to be a strong college basketball guard. I want to see him try to generate more pressure so he can create better passing lanes for everybody. He's just kind of a smaller guy, man, and that just
Yeah.
those are the concerns that come with the territory when you're built like Jeremy Fears.
Yeah, nothing really to add on Fears there.
Okay, Jackson Kohler looks like he's might be their go-to scorer throughout the year whenever they need a bucket, which is weird because Michigan State, they almost always have like one go-to guy. It's going to be interesting to see who kind of like emerges as their guy. But Kohler had 15 and 10 points, or excuse me, 15 points and 10 boards against Bowling Green, 10 and 12 boards. Kind of wax and wane efficiency wise, especially when he went up against UConn. Any Kohler thoughts, Jam?
No, just stepping into a new role as one of the primary scorers. We'll see what that looks like and how they generate offense through him.
All right, and then Trey Fort is a defensive-minded guard who he might get some elite minutes. He could be like the point guard defender that goes up against Acuff. A guy who I've tracked for a while. Anyone who remembers, when Maxwell was on the show, we've talked about Trey Ford, I think, for 2 consecutive years. Just says like this could be the year where he emerges as a guy. But defensive-minded guard who I think, it Coach Izzo's style of defensive-minded guard. I'll put it at that. But then Jam, we got 2 freshmen that we watched over the
Yeah.
summer that we both talked about in Jordan Scott and Cam Ward. What are you expecting from them?
I'm hoping they both get a chance to play. Looks like Cam Ward hella more consistent playing time than Jordan Scott. These are 2 guys from my area. I feel like, man, like as much as I'm going to say and have said this, we're going to have to take some shots. As many times I mentioned this, we can be water shots, we don't, but
Yeah.
we're going to have some fun with that. But honestly, like I've seen both of these guys so many times throughout the years here in my area, so I was excited to see them both end up Michigan State together. Cam Ward is 2-way guy, athletic, 6'7", just an absolute dog of a competitor, slasher, capable shooter as well too. Just a winner at Largo High School, played under his dad there. And then Jordan Scott also played, at South Lakes High School. People may know South Lakes because of Grant Hill, same high school there. So Jordan, pass, dribble, shoot, wing with defensive tools, just really good feel. I remember my first time actually watching Jordan play. It was my first time actually seeing Nate Amon play as well
Okay.
too. Yeah, both guys freshmen at an event there too that really stood out. So I'm excited about what both of Ward and Scott can be long term. Hopefully they get a chance to get some playing time this year. I think both can help Michigan State this year, and I think there could be opportunity there. But if they do get the opportunity, I do believe they will help this team.
Yeah, they did not get much burn in the exhibitions. Just to put that out there, Jim. I didn't personally watch a whole lot of Michigan State exhibitions, but just going back and tracing the box scores, I was excited to see how much they got, and they didn't really get as much as I would have hoped for. But you never can can it out.
I'm pretty sure Cam played a good amount in both exhibition games. We'll
Did he?
see. Yeah, he did. So I don't know what the deployment is really going to be like, going into the regular season. But he played 17 minutes in that game against Bowling Green,
I
and then
guess
the other.
not as much as I would have hoped for, I guess is what I
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm expecting
Yeah.
them to be like 20-minute type of guys, but I think they're going to be in that like 10 to 15 range. So they're about what I expect for them both. I just think Cam may play a little bit more because of the potential defense and physicality. But I hope they do both play.
Sure, and Norn Red in the chat mentioned that we said 6'7" again, so there we go. Appreciate you, Norn. But Jam, Michigan State, I think it's a pretty kind ranking, to be honest. Like, that's a tip of the cap to Coach Izzo, and you can never really
Yep.
rule him out, like, ever. Just when you think he's down, he's at his most dangerous. He's like an old tiger in that sense. I'm pulling for Arkansas, Woo Pig Suey in that game. But Jam,
Surprise.
surprise, surprise. Jam, we made it, dude. You could have
We
either
did.
watched Lord of the Rings or you could have listened to this week 1 preview show. And dude, we had to do it. It's
A
comprehensive.
marathon. Yeah.
In all seriousness, like we are so excited that college basketball is back. And there was a full slate of games there was more games that we could have covered, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like we have to get our sleep. But a very fun show, Jam. I want to thank you as always for coming in and doing this with me. I could not do this by myself. But we're gonna close the show. Jam, what do you have going on behind the scenes, brother?
Working on the Caden Lewis piece that will be out on Friday. Excited to talk about him. Once again, be able to see him a lot here in the DMV area, and then recently against Syracuse, and then they'll have a nice little data point against BYU. So I'm excited to see how all that plays out.
There we go. And I am working on a Caden Boozer piece, as I alluded to earlier in the show. Very excited for that because I got a chance to go through and watch this film all over again. And I fell in love all over again. I understand why I have him like as a potential lottery pick in this year's draft. And then Jam, our mock draft video is going to
Yes.
be out, and as well as the written piece, the article portion covering that for all you No Ceilings Plus members. You will get a chance to watch how we conduct ourselves in our war room and get to hear all the discussions that we have, all the fun debates, why we put players where we do, who likes players, who doesn't like players, so you know who to DM whenever you're upset. So you could be a plus player or plus member and figure that out. But even if you're not, you're going to be able to read, our mock draft, which we had 60 players. We have write-ups on the top 30. It's the same things that you're used to from your friendly neighborhood No Ceilings draft folks. But that's going to do it for today's show. Jim, we made it. College basketball is back, baby. And
We're here.
the scouting season really kicks into gear.
Yeah, very excited. Like, we are here. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. I just encourage everybody to enjoy the season, be patient with your evaluations, trust yourself, and, don't be afraid to change your mind.
I love it. All right. So for Jam, Boozer, Hines, for No Ceilings at Large, and for myself, we are the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, the Draft Sickos, and we will catch up with y'all next time. Much love, y'all.